The fifth round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series starts in a little over 40 minutes time. However, before drivers go racing, they first have to qualify, and that is what they're doing right now at the 2.76 mile, 12 corner Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit down under in Australia. Will Vincent, along with Scott Woodward and Jake Cameron, as we get set here to bring you exclusively live coverage on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. And what a series it's been so far. 4 races, 4 drivers winning the races, and of course last time round we saw Oli Picala go to iRacing WTS victory lane for the first time. The first time also we had a finish 1, 2, 3. Today, Oli Picala will be looking to keep his momentum strong. Hugo Louise will be looking to get himself back to the top step of the podium. Gregor Houtu will be looking to see whether he can finally get himself some momentum back in the championship, because right now it's not been going that Team Red Line driver's way. Qualifying is taking place right now. Drivers are out on their first lap. Martin Cronke is the first driver to set a qualifying time of 1 minute 6.418. However, there's a lot of drivers trying to get themselves into the field today. Only 35 of them can, and Scott, qualifying right now is important.
It really is. This is a circuit that is very treacherous, very fast and running. It's a circuit that really does require a lot of concentration. Lots of key corners on here as well. The run through the southern loop at turn 2, also the braking zone for turn 4 at Honda Corner, and that very, very treacherous turn 9 Luton Heights into the downhill brake zone at turn 10. You mess up any of those 3 corners and that is your qualifying lap done. And he's so important on a circuit like this, where he's right, not only is it fast, but it's narrow and winding, where grid position is going to be key for the rest of the race and the opening few laps. So these guys are going to have to set some fantastic lap times out there and hope that traffic does not spoil their laps at all to get themselves the best possible spot on the grid for this afternoon's Grand Prix.
Right now, Hugo Louise on provisional pole position, 1 minute 6.021. Andre Borgia second, Martin Cronke third, as it's a 3ID Motorsports lockout. Alexi Yusiakola currently scored in 4th position, Oli Picala in 5th, Jeremy Bootsloop and Mo Garfido to round out your top 7 provisionally. We are, of course, waiting to see what Gregor Houtu can do. He is just coming onto his first lap right now as he brings that car through turn number 2 on the racetrack. Can that red line driver get himself back to the top step of qualifying? He's got himself half a lap before he makes his first lap here. Hugo Louise, however, the first driver into the 1 minute 5s, a 1 minute 5.882 last time for him, as he's now on to his 3rd lap, his 3rd and final lap of qualifying, as he exits turn number 2 and works himself for this very fast turn 3 left hand flick from that huge braking zone down into turn number 4. Will Hugo Louise need to get himself a faster lap this time by Jake? For that 3D Motorsports driver, he's had some great qualifyings this season. He's just got to make sure he does a perfect lap right now, because it does seem to be every lap you do on these tyres, you're just getting faster and faster, and he's not going to do it. Hugo Louise goes off the racetrack, and that's going to be a lap not counted there for Louise. That could be critical for him.
Yeah, he's just made a little mistake there. I watch it back. He's got a little wriggle on there, I think. Too much power too early there. Hit the grass, and that's ended his qualifying run. I think he was on a quicker lap there as well. He seemed very quick in this qualifying session so far.
We'll get a word with Hugo Louise after qualifying to see whether that was a faster lap for him. But right now, Martin Cronke, it looks as though that he is done for qualifying as well. Alexi Yusiakola has moved up into 3rd place. He has just come past start finish line and goes 2nd. So he's 2nd place on the grid right now is Alexi Yusiakola. Oli Picala, he's going to come onto pit road. He's not going to improve his time. He will start right now from no higher than 5th place on the grid. Now we've got to turn our attention to Gregor Houtu. He kicks up a little bit of dust. He comes up the hill towards Lucky Heights, breaks it down into turn number 9 on the racetrack now. Just 2 corners left for him to go. 2 corners for Gregor Houtu. Will he be able to get himself somewhere towards the front on this first lap? We know this won't be his fastest, but if he can get himself pole position, he's really going to make a statement as he comes past the start finish line underneath the Melbourne Australia Bridge. It's a 1:6.5 so far for Houtu. Not fast enough, however, he's still got 2 more laps to get the job done, Scott.
Yeah, he's just winding up at the moment. We know Gregor Houtu, if he needs to pull out a fast lap, he will do. He's just heading through the southern loop right now. Very long, fast corner. A little bit of dust kicked up on the exit, but keeps it off the curves. And now it's the flat-out run through turn 3, this long left-hander. And then the first big braking zone for turn 4, Honda Corner. A little bit of a bump, but he gets it through, holds the apex nicely. A little bit of a tail slide as he tries to get the power down towards the left hand of turn 6 at Siberia. And then he'll come through the rest of the corner, through the next corner of turns 7 and 8, through the haystack. And he'll make his way up towards Lukey Heights, and that's the key braking zone there. It's downhill, bit more dust kicked up, but he holds the inside line. Looks like a fairly tidy lap so far, and no dramas through turn 10, so only the last couple of corners to go, and looks as though pretty tidy. Could be a quick one into the 1 minute 5s, just has to keep it good run. Good lap so far. Let's see where it ends him up on the grid after his second run.
Yeah, he'll come past the start finish line. To let you know, by the way, Enzo Benito up into P8 right now. So Benito did a faster first lap than Hutu. Second lap, a 106.101 there. That's provisionally 4th place for the 3-time WCS champion of Gregor Hutu. Martin Kroenke is still scored in that 3rd position. And the second Ferrari Motorsports car, Andre Borcha, rounds out your top 5. We've got Rocco Baroni on the racetrack right now. He's done a good run so far. He's just done a 1 minute 6.351. Does not improve over his second lap there. Enzo Benito has just done his 3 laps and he goes no higher than P9 in qualifying. So we've got to keep our attention with that 3-time champion, the number 1 Team Redline car, Gregor Hutu, as he comes out of turn number 5 once again. Will he be able to get himself a fast lap? This is his final opportunity, and right now he's scored P4 on the grid. We know that Hutu has had troubles on starts this season, so he's got to get himself as far up the grid as humanly possible to really maximise his potential in that first lap, which could be a critical part of this race. We'll talk about that after qualifying is complete, but Hutu will come through the final corner, turn number 12 for the final time in his qualifying run. Will it improve there for Gregor Hutu as he comes past the start finish line? The answer is going to be yes, he improves, but no faster. Hutu starts 4th, and that's a big one, Jay.
Yeah, definitely. I was watching Hutu there. He seemed to not be on the same line as what Hugo and Alessia Uciacola have been running. He seems to be a little slower into that turn 4 on the braking, and he seems to catch that curb as well on the inside, which I don't know if that's losing him pace or gaining the drivers any speed at all. But certainly a big upset there for Hutu, only in 4th. We were expecting something more, but let's see what he's got to give later on.
Martin Patilla and Isaac Price are both on the racetrack. Martin Patilla will check in with him momentarily because he did a 1 minute 6.524 last time by. His fastest lap so far in qualifying is a 106.397 as he works himself down into turn number 4 once again. Now Piatella, of course, in that Ferrari 3ID Motorsports machine, looking to get himself into the top 10 in qualifying. Isaac Price right now is working himself on the racetrack as well. We've got to see how these drivers do. Isaac Price coming out the final corner. Will he be able to improve? Currently scored P14 provisionally in qualifying as he comes past the start finish line. He will do a 106.211 up into P6 there for Isaac Price. What a lap by him, Scott.
Yeah, we said he was a fantastic talent in the pre-race show, and he's not wrong there. 6th position to displace Rocco Barone. But both those guys have done a fantastic job. Not only Isaac Price, because of course he does have the talent, but Rocco Barone, this is a guy who genuinely plays volleyball as a sport. But he has done a fantastic job to get himself into the world of sim racing on iRacing in the WCS. He's done an incredible job, and 7th quickest in the session. Credit where credit's due. That's not a bad lap time, and that's certainly one of the best laps of the session. So he's certainly put himself in the shop window. That's a great run. Possibly could have a great race if he can follow that up this afternoon at Phillip Island.
Martin Piatella goes past the start finish line, improves his time, moves up into P11. Interesting point I've just noticed, Scott. Spectator looking at this race, Klaus Ellenbrand, of course, we know him from formerly in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Looks as though he's checking out some of his former teammates, and you've got to ask the question, maybe Klaus is helping out his 3ID Motorsports guys, and this is the reason why you've got Hugo Luis right now in 1st, Martin Kroenke in 3rd, and Andre Borcha in 5th in qualifying.
Quite possibly. I think maybe Ferrari thought that he needed to bring in some wisdom in the form of a former teammate. It seems to be working in between the 2 weeks between Road America and here at Phillip Island, because they certainly have turned up the wick in terms of their pace overall. I mean, as you said, fastest for Hugo Luis, 3rd for Kroenke, and then 5th for Butcher. 3 cars in the top 5 for 3ID, compared to just 1 for Glacier Racing and 1 for Redline. That's an incredibly fantastic run for them so far. So I think certainly bringing in a former driver to give them a bit of help and steer them in the right direction again certainly seems to be helping at least the other drivers in the team. As for Hugo Luis, though, it looks as though for the moment he's perfectly fine, doesn't need any tuition, and any advice he's been given from Klaus has only made him stronger, because he's on pole at the moment by just over half a tenth from Uciacola. But again, Alexi's looking strong, and I wonder if Alexi can get a better race pace, could start to worry Hugo as he did in Road America. If he can pull off a similar similar pass that he did in Road America also, I think certainly he's going to be a definite championship contender and one to watch for the rest of the season. We know he is already, but certainly putting himself as a major title contender for the season if he can worry Hugo all the way to the flag, if not sooner than that this afternoon.
We've got two groups of qualifying, and the 19 drivers in this group, they were separated by less than 1 second on the racetrack. We'll bring you full confirmation of the qualifying results in about 4 minutes' time. But we'll go back and have a look at that lap by Hugo Louise, one of only two drivers in this group to get himself into the 1 minute 5s. In that number 3 3ID Motorsports car powered by Ferrari, and it did seem to be just a very clean lap by him, Jake. And it's one of these things, especially at this racetrack, and especially considering the wind conditions, the smoother a lap is going to look, generally the faster it's going to be, and he didn't look as though he was fighting that car at all. Just a little bit in turn number 2, got a little bit of oversteer, but apart from that, it seemed to be just picture perfect by him.
Yeah, definitely Hugo's laps seem to be the best qualifying laps we've seen so far. If I can remember correctly, he took pole last week as well. And he's definitely smooth. The car flows with him. It's like he's won with the car. He's not fighting against it. The car's doing what he's telling it to do straight away. And it's not snapping back on him like we saw Hutu get really loose with his setup and his car. So it's that different driving style really, as we see in turn 4 as well. Hugo didn't hit that curb as well, which I don't know if that's why him and Oleski are up the top 2 in the 0.5, well 0.9 sorry, but we don't know, do we? It's something we're going to find out later in the race and see which is quicker.
And for Alexei Usiakola, having a look back at his lap as well, he again just got a little bit of a wiggle through turn 2, and he came into the corner. He also didn't hit that curb in turn number 4. He was just running it on the inside, just off the curb a little bit. And of course, Alexei and Hugo, the only two drivers to get themselves into the 1 minute 5s in qualifying. But out of this group, you've got to have to say, great job, of course, by all the top 5. But Isaac Price 6, Rocky Barone 7th, great jobs by them. Biggest disappointment, you've got to arguably say, Scott, Oli Picardo all the way down in P8.
Yeah, not exactly on the same pace as his teammates. So possibly not a circuit that Ollie favours at all, but never count him out. He could be at least be in the running for at least the top 5 if he can pull himself up through the field in the opening few laps and make the strategy work for him as it did back in Road America. But Alexi's certainly setting the benchmark for the team this weekend so far, and it seems to be, for the moment, at least from qualifying, Hugo versus Alexei, possibly for the race win, unless Martin Kroenke possibly could act as a bit of a rear gunner to his teammate, unless he can get himself up and amongst, because remember, he's only just about a 10th off the pace from Alexei, and about another about half a tenth to another tenth of a second off what Hugo can do. So Martin's still in there, but of course, and he's ahead of Gregor Hutu on the grid, as he is with the likes of Andre Butcher and Isaac Price. So Kroenke definitely finding a bit more pace this weekend, possibly in contention for a podium if either Olli Piccardo can't charge up through the field, Gregor Hutu can't make an impact, or anyone else up there, including the likes of Isaac Price, can't show their form at all. So possibly Kroenke could be looking at a potential rostrum finish if he can keep it all together this afternoon.
We talk about how slow Oli Picardo was. We're talking 3 tenths per second, which is not much. However, 3 tenths per second was 6 places on the starting grid. In fact, as you have a look down, all the way from Mo Garfilo in 10th down to Enzo Benito in 13th, they're separated by just 1 tenth per second. And again, a weirdly disappointing result by Enzo Benito, considering the fact that the number 17 driver is a Team Redline guy. Yes, Hutu had some issues of himself, but the gap between Hutu and Benito was about 3 tenths per second on the racetrack, Jake. And Benito just seemed to be a bit out of sorts again.
Yeah, he's not seemed to have his pace this week. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's definitely not in favour at the moment with his team. But it's going to be something he's going to have to improve if he wants to fight it out this season.
And we have now got confirmation of the qualifying results for what will be the 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. And confirm pole position, Hugo Louise, a qualifying time of 1 minute 5.882. Alexei Usiakola will start alongside him in the first row of the grid, just half of a tenth of a second slower. Martin Kroenke and 3-time world champion Gregor Hutu will start on row number 2, with Yorni Tamada and Andre Borcha in row number 3. Row number 4 will be Isaac Price and Rocco Baroni, with Oli Picardo all the way down in 9th. Alongside him will be Robin Friskops, a great qualifying by him to get himself up into the top 10. Stephen Michaels, Juhu Abe will start on row number 6 with Mogar Philo and Ilka Hapana in row number 7. March Patila, Paul Ilbrink in row number 8. Enzo Benito all the way down in 17th place for him, with Jeremy Boochaloop alongside him in the 9th row of the grid. Then Jake Sturgis. Difficult day for the INX guys as Matthias Egger lines out your top 20. Marcus Caton, Alex Simpson, Miguel Martin, Dion Burgess and Fulvio Barazzini, they ran out your top 25. Of the guys who tried to qualify for the race, just 2 don't make it in. They are Lee Thompson and Michelle Mancusi. And overall, the entire gap between P1 and P37, the last of the guys who qualified, just 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. Scott, that's a very tight grid.
This shows the level of competition and the calibre of the drivers that are in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. 1.5 seconds, as you said, split between 25 drivers. That's certainly that's certainly an incredibly close and competitive grid, and I'm pretty sure the racing is going to be fast and frantic, as it always is. And with a circuit like Phillip Island, it's only going to intensify things even more. I'm looking forward to this afternoon. Should be an absolute classic, and fingers crossed it can live up to the rest of the season that we've had so far. So hopefully it's going to be a great race for round 5, because we've been spoiled for the first 4 races. Absolutely magnificent across the board. Let's hope that Australia does deliver the goods this afternoon.
And in total, you had your top 32 drivers separated by just 1 second. Kazuki Omishima was the last guy to qualify in the 35th position, and the entire field, who actually raced, they were separated by just 1.2 seconds on the racetrack. So very, very tight between these drivers. We've got about 10 minutes before we go down to warm up here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. However, let's talk about the weather a little bit, because the weather's been a critical part of the championship all season long. And Jake, it's windy and it's cold today. That can make for some very interesting racing.
Yeah, definitely. We saw 2 weeks ago at Road America the wind making a really, really big play on the back straight down into Canada Corner. People were pulling off some great passes there with that wind advantage and the runs they were getting. But the wind at Phillip Island, I don't know how much of an advantage it's going to really make, but it's going to give drivers a little something to think about going into turn 1, especially as they have that tailwind pushing them, or headwind, sorry. I just did a Scott there, but it's gonna give them something to think about, and hopefully it'll give us some interesting racing.
And Scott, that cold track temperature as well, we saw that at Suzuka. That made it very difficult for some of these drivers. However, the big story of the day is that 1 and 2 stop strategy. Now, if you're on a 2-stop strategy, you've got to ask the question, are you going to even take tyres on one of your stops? You know that tyre wear hasn't been the critical factor of this year's championship. Cold track temperatures might mean actually you only want to take tyres on one opportunity and then just run that set of tyres towards the end of the race, because cold temperatures mean it's going to take a little bit of time to get those heat in those 4 Bridgestone tyres.
And of course, because it's a slightly colder track temperature, means effectively it's easy for you to regulate the optimum operating window that those tyres can run in terms of temperature and grip levels. So I think you're right in terms of the wear. It shouldn't be too bad here, but of course, as you said rightly, it's going to take them a few laps of hard running to get those tyres up to to proper optimum temperature. I think, having said that, possibly there is the chance of going, if you're going to do 2 stops, to only take tyres on one of them, but it all depends on how you attack the circuit, because it is a fast circuit with long, fast flowing corners, and those long corners can definitely put strain and a lot of load on those tyres as well. So it's all going to be very careful with tyre management. The colder temperatures will help with that, but it all depends on how quick they are going to set those lap times and how quickly they're taking the apex of some of those long corners, because it certainly is going to help make it have a big factor on tyre wear and going forwards, of course, whether you need that extra set of tyres. The fresher set possibly could work out for you in the longer run if you take tyres on both stops, but remember, of course, it's 2 sets of tyres that you have to get back up to temperature rather than just the 1 new set. So that's something else to think about going forwards, as well as the fuel loads.
And we'll be honest here, is that after the first couple of laps of this race, it will become another one of those classic iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series strategy races. This field has been so close. You might get a little bit of passing down into turn 4, the way the wind is working, Jake, but we've just got to keep our calculators ready. We've got to keep our charts and who's pitting, who's not pitting, because this is a race that will be won on pit road more than on the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely. Ollie Picara last week, he made a brilliant pit stop and he timed it to perfection to come out in front of his teammate. That's what won him last week's race, well, 2 weeks ago race, sorry, at Road America. So it's going to be a big thing, pit stops this season, I think. They've already been laid crucial to some of the championship standings, so we'll see how they go on for the rest of the season. But definitely the grid's looking very tasty. If you look back at Road America as well, there was only a second separating the top 35 drivers in that race.
And again, it's going to be a hugely close, competitive, crazy race here at Phillip. The thing that we've got to pay attention to, though, Scott, is that start. Because the start could be critically important here. These guys have got to be clean. And we talked about this on Spotlight a little bit earlier on. This is a very narrow racetrack. It's more suited for bike racing than Grand Prix racing today. Through turn 1, it's barely 2 cars wide. So therefore, you've got to pay attention to the way your car is going on the racetrack. And the start here, you're not going to be braking until, about 50 metres before turn 2. You've got to make sure that you've got good spatial awareness, because otherwise there could be a huge wreck.
It really could. I mean, obviously, it's very tricky. I have seen people make passes on the outside into turn 1. It is possible, but only in certain circumstances, I think. And as you said, it is more of a bike circuit. Series like top series like the World Superbikes and MotoGP do race here more regularly. The only real single-seater racing, as we said also in the Spotlight, only really takes place. The highest profile single-seater that I could find that still races here is Australian Formula 3. There's nothing like the likes of possible like Formula 1 or Grand Prix racing, or even something like IndyCar or something like that. It's purely just that's the only kind of single seaters that you get, and then go forwards down, you've only got things like Formula Ford. So because of that, it means that if you're going to make any passing spots, passing spots are few and far between. Into turn 2 maybe is a possibility. Turn 4 is definite. That could be a key passing spot. There are passes you can make down into turn out of Lukey Heights into turn 10, but there's only really 2 major passing spots really, unless you really want to count turn 2 as an opportunity. So again, it's all about picking the moment and getting the best run you can out of the appropriate corners. The better run through Lukey Heights if you're going to make a move into turn 10, or the best run off the Southern Loop to set yourself up down towards Honda Corner at turn 4. So have to see. Some of these guys are going to have to be daring, but as I said, people like Alexei Usiakola, who aren't afraid to go around the outside with some passes, could potentially surprise us with some breathtaking moves, provided they can get them set up properly, especially into turn 1 down the pit straight.
We'll go a little bit technical on you as well, and of course, for those of you who are familiar with iRacing, you'll know that every 13 weeks they bring a raft of updates to all the cars on the iRacing.com service, and once again, the Williams FW31, that is the car of play here in the WCS, has been no exception to that. Now, the changes made aren't huge, but what they do, Scott, is they make the cars a little bit easier to drive in some ways, and also get some of the randomness out of the setup variables. And we talked about this in Spotlight as well. The most important thing here isn't necessarily what the changes are, it's about the adaptability, and drivers have got to adapt quickly. And some drivers that might have had an advantage, all of a sudden, might have to be scratching their head, figuring out a new way of finding speed.
Yeah, the main updates, again, I won't get into too much detail with the suspension updates, but it's mainly updates to the tyres and the suspensions, basically. So, in layman's terms, it makes the car slightly easier to drive. And we talked about possibly some of the smaller teams who may find a bit of struggle a little bit with the setup or getting used to the car going forwards and the early part of the season. They may find that because the car's a little bit easier to drive, it's easier to come to an ultimate setup. So, I think these guys possibly may find that with the easy updates to the tyres and suspension, they could find themselves with better fortunes, and we could even see a lot more drivers now coming through and showing their true colours in terms of pace and setup work and just consistency in terms of lap time. So it's all about how they're able to adapt with these changes and see exactly just how they work. It could be the case that effectively, it doesn't seem to have affected the top teams too much, but again, drivers like Isaac Price, Rocco Barone, these kind of guys who seems to have warmed to these changes very much, and they're up there on the grid and they're put in some fantastic lap times. So it is now helping drivers who we wouldn't normally see up there setting the ultimate pace up there with the usual suspects, starting to come through, and that just verifies just how competitive and how much of a diverse spread of a mixture of skill levels and talent there is on the track. There's a huge breadth of ability in the field, and the fact that these new updates have actually helped to increase that is only a good thing.
And of course, Jake, as we get closer to the month of May, and of course we all know the month of May is my favourite month of the year, it's also one of the most important months of the year as far as the WCS goes, because last time out we had two huge moments. We had one at Sebring, then we had one at Watkins Glen, which really changed the momentum from it being a close fight between Ferdi Motorsport and Team Redline to being pure Gregor Houtu domination. This race today, Watkins Glen, in 2 weeks' time, they will set the tone of this championship to come. And if you're a Glacier Racing driver, if you're a Red Line driver, if you're a 3ID driver, you know you've got to get results this time out and also in 2 weeks' time at the Glen.
Yeah, definitely the drivers at the top, they got to show their pace at every track. They can't just show their pace at 1 or 2 tracks. Like the Glacier boys so far, they've shown they've got pace this season, but can they show they've got pace throughout the whole season? Can they hack the whole season? Can they push to that championship like the likes of Hutu and Luis have? They've done it all season. They've been consistent all season. Look at last season. But I don't know. Next week, 2 weeks' time at Watkins Glen, there's going to be a make or break point for some of these new guys in this championship that are trying to battle for that top 5 spot.
For more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, head over to wcs.iracing.com for all the latest news, information, driver interviews, and so much more for both the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series and, of course, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Don't forget as well, the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com will return in just 2 weeks' time. They took a week off here. They were scheduled to run at Richmond. That race has been postponed. They'll be back in action on May 6th as they take on the Tricky Triangle, 100 laps, and that will be on PSR TV, the Motor Racing Network, the New England Sports Network, and of course on iRacing Live. We're getting set to go racing here at Phillip Island, and it's our first of 3 races today here on RaceSpotTV. After this, we have ISOWC IndyCar action in Alabama, Barber Motorsports Park, and we conclude our day today with Skip Barber Racing from Road America. A full slate of coverage exclusively live here on RaceSpotTV. Guys, I asked you before we went to our pre-race show, well, we went to this show, who you thought was going to win this race, and you said Hutu, Scott. Do you still stick with that position?
It's a tricky one. I mean, Hutu's in 4th, and he's only about, I'd say, 2/10 off the pace. So it's difficult. I mean, Hutu possibly, I think looking at it now, possibly Hutu could still at least get a podium. But unless he can pick up the pace, he's got better, stronger race pace than the cars in front of him, then it could be a little bit tough. I think now I'm going to possibly, I think I may take the opportunity to switch it slightly. And I think possibly I'm probably going to go with this time with, I think we're going to see a second victory for Alexei Uciacola. I think he's probably going to worry Hugo again, as he did in Road America, to the first stint, as we said, and then make a pass, or at least get him in the pit stops. And possibly, I think it could be Glacier's 3rd win in a row. I think I'm changing up now as with opportunity. I'm saying Hutu could possibly get on the podium, but I think the win's now going to go to Alexei Uciacola.
Jake?
Well, I said, and I'll say it again, I want to see an English guy win. I want to see someone from UK&I this season take the win. And Isaac's just pointed out there that he is something to menace with in this race. He's qualified on 6th, and I'm going to stick with him this time. I'm not going to say Hugo Luis or anyone. I'm going to say Isaac Price, and he's going to win this.
Well, I am going to have to stick with the safe option. Of course, the guy starting on pole position, Hugo Luis. However, never discount the guy starting alongside him, Alexei Uciacola. We are now less than 10 minutes away from start time here in the 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We're going to step aside for just a brief moment for station identification and a word from your friends at iRacing. We'll be right back for exclusively live coverage here on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. The first 4 rounds of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series has seen 4 different winners, as you've had Hugo Louise, Gregor Hutu, Alexei Usiakola and Ollie Picala each take victories. It's the first time it's ever happened in iRacing.com and WCS history, and as we enter the 5th round of the championship, everything is still to play for. Who knows what could happen in the next 69 laps worth of racing here on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. We are at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit down under in Victoria, Australia. The track measures 2.76 miles in length. It has 12 corners, and right now it's a cold yet crisp, clean day here in Phillip Island. Track temperature 65 degrees, a northwesterly wind of 10 miles an hour, and race relative humidity is 46%. For more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, head over to wcs.iracing.com, and if you're a new member to iRacing, head over to iRacing.com right now for half price off all new memberships. Right now, Will Vincent along with Scott Woodwist and Jake Cameron, we are watching warm-up. There's 4 minutes 30 seconds left on the play clock, and Scott, this is that chance for drivers to shake things down, get themselves ready, get themselves prepared, and also figure out how their car feels in race trim. And there's some great battles going on the racetrack, even under practice, as drivers try to make things work the way they need to.
Yeah, this is a great time to dial the car in exactly what they need. I'm just watching Marcus Patton's having some fun at with some of his fellow drivers out there. I think possibly one of the Orion race team machines, and they said they have a great, fantastic scrap. And this is also a great chance to decide some possible passing places, because they're battling with each other, but great chance for them to see exactly where is the best chance to pass. Where can I get away with being 2 wide or 3 wide, even 3 wide for some drivers? I mean, possibly passing to turn 4 are obviously going to be a guaranteed, as we said. Also, so is Lukey Heights, and maybe into turn 2. So it's a chance for them, if they can, to start making passes and thinking, right, where's the best chance I can use this on the racetrack? It means that it's that knowledge that they can carry forward into the rest of the race, as Marcus Patton just locks up and almost checks up about 4 or 5 cars behind him. But certainly it's making for some interesting and exciting viewing so far in the warm-up, as we've got about, I'd say, about 3.5 minutes left in the session to go. So as they all file back in, again, also that very key, that pit lane entrance is very tricky as well. It's a shorter pit lane this time than they have in other circuits like Road America, which means pit stops are going to be a little bit quicker, but who knows? It could be different. Could be seeing some fantastic racing so far. I certainly hope so. But all the battles so far warm up going out on the circuit.
Yeah, some great battles going on, and Stephen Michaels there just had a very close call with Robin Friscops in that number 37 car, and also Michelle Chesney, who is very slow on the inside line onto turn number 4. We will, however, run through your starting grid for this, the 5th round of the championship, and it is Hugo Louise starting on pole position for the 2nd race in a row in that number 3 Baraja Ferrari Motorsports car, and alongside him is Alexei Usiakola, who won our course at Suzuka, the 3rd round of the championship. Martin Kroenke hasn't won a race this season, but he starts in the 3rd position. Gregor Hutu will start alongside him in row number 2. Yoni Tamala and Andre Borchet in the 3rd row of the grid, with Isaac Price and Rocco Baroni in row number 4. A great qualifying by both Price and Baroni. Ollie Picala, a difficult day for him, qualifying in just the 9th position. Robin Friscops, a great qualifying by him, however. He starts on the outside of row number 5. Stephen Michaels tries to bounce back after a difficult start to his season, starting on the inside of row number 6, and alongside him will be the Japanese sensation that is Yuhu Abe in the number 30 car. Row number 7, Mogar Filo, Ilka Hapala. Row 8, Marge Patila, Paul Ilbrink. Enzo Benito all the way down on the inside of row number 9, Jeremy Bouteloup alongside him. And then another surprise on the inside of row 10, Jake Sturgios only qualifying 19th, Matthias Egger starting alongside him. Rest of qualifying times coming up on your screen momentarily. A total of 35 cars have made the trip down under to Phillip Island, and they are separated by, get this, Jake, 1.2 seconds between 1st and 35th in qualifying. That is close.
Yeah, it's definitely. Some of the qualifying we've seen this season has been incredibly close. As I said earlier, Road America, only a second separated in the top 35. Here as well, it's only the top 35 are separated by 1.2 seconds. This season is definitely getting more exciting as we go along, and I'm really looking forward to this race. So let's hope the engines get revving and we get ready to go racing.
Pit road, we talked about that a minute ago, Scott. Pit road here today is going to be critical. Two-stop strategies are an option. They're more of an option now with this reconfigured pit road, but you've got to bear in mind as well, these drivers got to be careful when they exit pit road.
Yeah, it's such a fast run-off turn 12, which means that you have to be looking constantly in your mirrors, in your right-hand mirror, to make sure there's no cars coming, any cars coming down pit lane. And also, the cars coming down have got to be aware of that also. They've got to know where pit exit is, so they're going to make sure they line themselves up on the circuit. And we'll see one or two cars just briefly have thrown themselves upside down. Can't make out who that was. Maybe you can look at that in the background, we'll see who that was. But one of these cars have ended up upside down just on the exit of turn Siberia corner on turn 6. But anyway, back to the point we were making about the pit lane. Yeah, it's a two-way thing. Also, the cars which are coming out of the pit lane, they've got to be looking in their mirrors to make sure they're aware of any cars coming past down the pit straight. But also the guys who are actually on pit straight coming past pits, they've got to be looking, of course, to that exit to make sure they leave enough room for any cars coming out. Because if there's one slight bit of miscommunication, I don't even want to think about the monumental accident that could happen, especially with the speeds these cars are reaching down the pit straight. It could be possibly some very hairy moments, one or two, especially when they're trying to get around back markers. But hopefully we won't get too many problems with that, and hopefully everyone understands and respects each other when coming in or out of pit road and going past as they're exiting.
A good lock from race control as the checkered flag is out, and therefore the guys had to head themselves onto the race grid. We're getting set to go racing for 69 laps around this 2.76 mile racetrack, which has 12 turns. One more time, it's a cold day here today at Phillip Island, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, a northwesterly wind of 10 miles an hour, and relative humidity is 46%. You can follow us on Twitter at RaceSpotTV. You can leave your comments as well on the YouTube page and use the hashtag iRacing WCS to stay in contact with us all race long. It could be a great race. Could Martin Kroenke, starting from third place on the grid, potentially make it 5 winners of 5 races? What can Hugo Louise do from that first position on the racetrack? He scored pole, of course, in 2 weeks ago at Road America, but he only finished 4th. What can iWCGPS do? Can he make another one of these good starts and then bold manoeuvres to get himself to the front of the field? And of course, you've got to pay attention to the 3-time champion. That is Gregor Hutu, starting in the 4th position. Lights are on top of the iRacing.com gantry. The 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series starts right now, and it's a really good start there by iWCGPS, but he gets himself a little bit of wheel spin as he shifts from 1st into 2nd gear. Hugo Louise will have the inside line into turn number 1. That is important, but Martin Kroenke, good stop by him. Look at Gregor Hutu as he comes down the inside of Martin Kroenke into the 2nd corner, and they are too wide, too deep right now. Jordan Tamara and Andre Borgia battle on the racetrack. We're going to say side-by-side racing. Kroenke will get the better of Hutu in that battle for the 3rd position. Hutu's going to go around the long way down into turn number 4 for the first time. Will he be able to make his stick? The answer is going to be no. Andre Borgia's going to try and go down the inside. He won't get the job done either. A little bit of contact between Borgia and Hutu, but they were able to get through that one okay. Out front, it is Hugo Louise leading by now about 6 car lengths over Alexei Isiakola. Martin Kroenke 3rd, Hugo 4th, and a big crash there.
Yeah, Rocco Barone's gone out. He was side by side with Isaac Price on the exit of Siberia corner. He's into the barriers, and that was such a shame. He had such a great start getting side by side up into about 7th place. But his car's number tyres, he's out of the race on that one already. Such a shame.
And that is going to be hugely disappointing for the guy who started in 8th place in this race. We'll get ourselves a replay up on your screen on that one in just a moment's time. But that was why he was working the outside there. I believe it was Shake Sturgis. They went 3 wide, and then Baroni got off the racetrack, and he got involved actually with Robin Friscops, another driver who had a great start in that number 37 Inex racing car. Friscops has brought his car onto pit road. Out front, however, Louise has a 6/10 of a second advantage right now over Alexei Isiakola, a further 6/10 of a second between Iakola and Kroenke, and then Hutu wasn't able to get the job done at the start. He is in the 4th position right now, Jake, but out front a clean start. Disappointing there for 2 of the young guns, Baroni and Friscops, because they had great qualifying, so it just went all wrong for them.
Yeah, definitely Robin Friscops hasn't had the luck this season, has he? He's down in 25th, nearly losing his license where he stands at the moment. His season's not had the luck for him, but it's not changed this week either, has it? It seems he just got squeezed out and nowhere to run really, and that was him round. But he seems to be back out on track now, just far down, see how far he can make up and what positions he can gain.
Yeah, and he is scored in the 33rd position on the racetrack right now. Ilkka Haparda is also classified as out of the race. We'll see what happened to him in that number 12 Orion racing car. And I think he had an incident down at turn number 5. And this is where that entire thing started, Scott. It was around that part of the racetrack. And it was a contact between Ilkka Haparda and Jake Sturgios, because they came together on the racetrack. And I think then Sturgios then had a moment at about the same time Baroni had his moment, and turn 5 was a critical part, and that's what caused all the first map incidents. We expected it to be one corner earlier down at turn number 4.
Yeah, we really did. I think it was just a miscommunication. I think Baroni tried to go around the outside. He just ran out of the road simply. And of course, with these Grand Prix cars, you have to be incredibly careful, because if you just get if you slip just a little bit across onto the curb or onto the grass, it can lip these cars around, and you just straight into it can cause chaos if you're not careful. But he went sliding off into the tyres. He beached it across into the barriers, and he was done for the day after just about 5 or 6 corners. So very disappointing. As I said, he had such a great qualifying time to get up into the top 10, and big respect to him for getting there. But the man who's benefited so far in the start, in the mid-pack, is Ollie Picala. Started 9th, he's up 2 spots ahead of Isaac Price already into 7th. And also Yuho Abe, what a great start from him, the Japanese driver for Ronin Racing. He's up there in 9th position, chasing hard after Isaac Price, and he's made up about 3 spots off the start as a result of that incident. I know Jake Sturgis is back down in 15th, so he's probably struggling with a little bit of damage, but good stuff, excellent stuff, as Hugo Williams continues to lead. He's pulled away, and interestingly enough, also Alex Yusiakola, he's fallen into the clutches of both Martin Kroenke and Gregor Hutu, so maybe even though he had great qualifying pace, well, seems to own the race pace. Glacier Racing, as they did in Road America, taking a little while to get up to speed, and the other drivers so far are taking full advantage of it.
Yeah, indeed, that gap is up to 1.3 seconds on the racetrack right now between Louise and Yakola. Ahead of Picard, he is catching a train of cars right now. Jordan Tamada, Andre Borcher, Gregor Hutu, Martin Kroenke, and of course that train is being led right now by UC Yakola. And this is one of these things on the racetrack. Passing can be difficult here, and also the sections where you get good runs, you've then got the big aerodynamic corners beforehand, and that really gives a little bit of separation of all these cars. So what we've got to keep our eye on, Martin Kroenke right now running in the 3rd position in that number 5 Ferrari Motorsports car, and as I say, he is a contender for victory here, potentially trying to make it 5 winners out of the first 5 races. Behind him, Gregor Hutu is coming under a little bit of pressure from Andre Borcher. There's been a bit more separation that last time by. I'm keeping an eye out on the straight line speeds actually. 201 miles an hour, 202 for Martin Kroenke there. He had the draft. Alexei Yusiakola is able to do 200 miles an hour down into turn number 1. T1 an hour advantage. That can be a bit of a difference maker a bit later on. But Jake, as Scott just mentioned, Glacier Racing is historically a little bit slow to get going in these races, but we've got to consider maybe, like they did at Suzuka, like they did at Road America, they just got a little bit more fuel on board, and if they can keep those positions like they've got right now, they can really come into their own a little bit later in this race.
Yeah, definitely. At this stage of the race, we don't know what any of these drivers are doing for pit stop strategies. You know, Hugo Luis, he could be running on that half a tank of fuel, you know, doing that 2-stop strategy, where Jacola and his teammate Picard, they could be running that 1-stop strategy with fuel tank of fuel, and that's slowing them down. You know, currently we just see Jacola, Kroenke and Hutu, they're all in the line. This is just going to be follow the lead around here for the moment, until they can really make that move, which, to be honest, there's not many places around here, as you were saying a minute ago. It is single file racing, unless they can get that run into turn 1 and that run into turn 4. But Hugo Release stretching that lead every single lap, now to a 1.6 second lead over Jacola.
But this is exactly what we had 2 weeks ago at Road America, where Hugo Luis danced off into the sunset just a little bit, Scott. But then, about 7-8 laps into the race is when Yakola started to close that gap back up. Last time by, it was a 108.477 for Alexei Yusiakola, a 108.231 that last time by for Hugo Luis. All the guys behind Yakola right now are going slower than they potentially might have wanted to go at this stage of the race. But Hugo Luis is 0.2 seconds faster than anyone else on the racetrack, and he knows right now that regardless of strategy, if he just keeps on pushing out front, he's putting himself into the best position possible in that Ferrari number 3 machine.
We did say, didn't we, if it's those who can take advantage they have that will gain the biggest benefit from it. And Hugo Luis, of course, is leading, and he's now got a 1.6 second advantage and increasing it every single corner that he takes. And then, like you said, it's completely clean out, and he's taking full advantage of it, and rightly so. I mean, now that Alexei Yusiakola is heading that train, pulling away slightly, but I think we're possibly going to get a change for 3rd pretty soon, because Gregor Hutu lining up with Martin Kroenke. Here he comes down to turn 1, has a look, but Kroenke just manages to keep his nose in front. And again, this might set up Hutu down on the outside for turn 2, can't get it done as Kroenke holds the inside line. And let's see what kind of exit he gets off here, because if Hutu can get himself a good enough run and slipstream, he is close enough. We could get a chance here to make a pass into turn 4 at Honda corner. He'll go to the outside. Hutu going for a podium place. Under brakes for the right-hander into the hairpin. Hutu up the inside. Job done. 3rd place.
Very close. I tell you what, he brushed a little bit wide in the centre of the corner. Almost made contact with that number 5 car of Martin Kroenke. So it's a good pass there by Hutu. A little bit sloppy on the execution, but he does indeed move himself up into 3rd place for the time being. And now Hutu will try and close down the driver who of course passed him a couple of weeks ago at Road America, and that was of course Alexei Yusiakola. But out front that last time by, it was a 107.941 for Hugo Ruiz. It was a 108.4 for Alexei Yusiakola, even though for Yakola that was pretty much in the ballpark of what he's been doing fastest lap-wise. So they come past the start-finish line, a 108.1 that time by for Hugo Ruiz, a 108.2 for Yakola, 108.2 there for Gregor Hutu as well. The slowest driver out the top 4 that last time by was Martin Cronke. Let's have a look down the field a little bit, because Jake Sturgis and Alex Simpson have been battling on the racetrack. I believe Sturgis has been able to get himself past Simpson, but along the outside, Fulvio Barresi tried to make the move just there over Alex Simpson. And this is a battle for the 16th position right now. And this mid-pack is mighty close as well. Jake Sturgis has had one of the best starts of those drivers in the rear in the top 20 though. And we all realised that Jake was going to be good at the start of this race because he had such a bad qualifying, Jake.
Yeah, he did definitely have a bad qualifying, and his standards starting all the way back there. But he's done really well. I've watched him from the for a couple of laps, and he seems to be having a stronger in the middle section of their track, but on the start, on the home straight in turn 1 and 2 is where he seems to be struggling to make the passes. He's already got up 3-4 positions already, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do for the rest of this race, and will he be able to take a top 10 home?
And that's one of the weird things with iNEXT, because traditionally they're always one of the fastest cars in a straight line. They seem to be struggling for straight line speed here today, however. And just having a look as we go back towards the top 10, Yuhu Abe is still running in that top 10 position right now. But Jeremy Bootsloop, who started this race in 18th, Scott, is already up into the top 10. Now we know how good Jeremy Bootsloop can be at passing drivers, arguably one of the best drivers in the series. But again, 8 places in as many laps in this event. What a start by that Radicals number 19 machine.
Cracking getaway in the opening laps, and as you said before so many times, well, he's the master of that guy in the middle part of the race, in that middle stint, try and take full advantage of it. But this pack is so close together, because I did notice just behind the top 5, Yoni Tormala and Andrea Butcher did get side by side into turn 1, and then Butcher just through turn 2 got a little bit sideways, and that checked up the rest of the field behind. But it did allow Ollie Pacala in the second of the Glacier Racing cars into 6th position, and already the Finn is now starting to wind himself up a little bit more, because he's now right on the tail of Yoni Tormala to try and get around him. But it's good to see so many of these 3ID Motorsport cars up there in the top 10 as they run back onto the pit straight to start lap number 10. And it's incredible that Ollie's now trying to get himself in the slipstream to try and get himself into a top 5 place. So maybe it seems that if Alexei Yusiakola isn't, at least Ollie Pacala has managed to find himself some race pace, and he's now starting to come into his own as he now gets very close towards turn 2. A little bit of puff of smoke for somebody in front, but Pacala now looking at a potential top 5 place, and maybe doing a same tactic, just trying to get himself as close as he can on the exit of turn 2. Won't do it this time around, but maybe in the next couple of laps, if he can keep it up, maybe next time by, to get himself on the outside through turn 3, which will give him the track position for turn 4 and make a pass similar to that Hutu did on Martin Cronke in the 3rd position. Could happen, but Andrea Butcher's also getting very strong in 7th place. He's now forcing Pacala to deal with to be the meat in a 3RD Motorsport sandwich right now. Let's see how he copes with that.
And we're getting word that potentially Jake Sturgis has got a little bit of side pod damage, which is what is harming his straight line speed right now. And as I say, traditionally we expect these iNEXT cars to be the fastest on the racetrack, but he does seem to be struggling in a straight line. Of course, we did see the incident that he had with, I believe that was the Orion racing car of El Gallardo on the first lap of the race. That potentially gave him some damage, which will be difficult for those pit crews to fix during the course of this event. Right now, Ollie Pacala is still going in that 6th position. Andre Borgia is trying to make some time up on him right now, however, not quite close enough to do so. And Gregor Hutu has closed that gap now down to 0.3 of a second between himself and Alexei Yusiakola. And last time by, you have to say, between Hugo Ruiz and Alexei Yusiakola, the gap stabilised now. And it was only about 0.02 of a second difference between them. In fact, like last time by, fastest guy on the racetrack was Gregor Hutu in that number 1 Fanatic team Red Line car, and as they work themselves out of turn number 5, it does seem to be that Hutu has got himself wound up. We've got to consider again though those 2 chassis options, Jake, and you've got to predict that there are 2 wildly different chassis going on. We don't know you until though we get to about lap 25 and these drivers make their first visit onto pit road if they're on a 2-slot strategy.
Yeah, definitely. Jacola has dropped off a lot from Hugo Luis. He's now got that 2.5 second lead. But Gregor Hutu, he seems to be back in his run of form now in this race.
He's going to make a pass as well.
He's now making the pass. Yeah, he's gone to the outside. He's in that draft. Just hanging it out there. Easily done that going into turn 1. Jacoda just says, I'm happy to sit behind. I'm not going to fight you. You're the quicker driver. But they're now 3 seconds back from Luis, and he's stretching that lead every single lap. But Hutu, he's definitely looking quicker than Jacoda at the moment, so I wonder if he's only on that 2-stop strategy.
And last time by, it was a 108.042 there for Gregor Hutu. And of course, he had to make that pass as he came past start finish line, which was hurt him a little bit. And Hugo Luis pulls out another 10th for a second. For Jacoda, he was just running in that 3rd position. He'll be happy with that, I think, for the time being, because traditionally these closer racing drivers have gone longer than anyone else on the racetrack as far as it comes to fuel. Let's check in on this battle between Isaac Price and Yuhu Abe quickly, Scott, because they still sat right now in the 8th and 9th positions. However, and this is a good thing for them, is that they're only about half a second behind Andre Borcher running in the 7th position right now. So these 2 young drivers, Isaac Price and Yuhu Abe, really taking it to the established Freddie Motorsports drivers of Andre Borcher.
And last time around, they were on the same pace as Gregor Hutu was, so definitely that's benefited them in the long run. Definitely showing they have got at least raw pace in them. And it's kind of good that they're running punch and counter punch between each other, because they're looking pretty evenly matched. But if they along with each other and kind of subconsciously work together to push themselves forward through the field, they could potentially get themselves up into contention for a top 5 finish, provided, of course, they've got enough pace and enough longevity in their stints to make them move up through the field whilst others are making their first stops. But yeah, Isaac Price and Yuharbe, fantastic run so far to both be in the top 10. And of course, as we said, don't discount Jeremy Boutelo. He has stabilised for the moment in 10th. He's still being kept honest by Stephen Michaels behind, but so far he's definitely kept himself in a top 10 spot. Very good run so far from 18th on the grid, and he's definitely putting on a strong run and stuff for the Radicals team. So a top 10 run for him so far is great. But so far at the moment it seems as though the gap is stabilising quickly back up at the front between Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu. But it seems that last time around practically Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu matched each other for lap times. There was only about 0.06 of a second difference between them, whereas Lexi Usiakola was slower by about a full 4/10 slower than both of them. So it seems as though possibly if they are running a heavier fuel load here, it's not really benefiting them in the long run because initially, but let's see how it plays out for the rest of the race and if those long stints play out in the long run as we head towards the middle part of this race.
Working ourselves right now on lap number 14 of 69, and to run through your top 10 it is Hugo Luis now with a 2.9 second advantage over Gregor Hutu. That gap dipped below 3 seconds that last lap once again. Alexei Usiakola running in the 3rd spot and Martin Conke in 4th. Ronnie Tamada in 5th, Oli Picala 6th, Andre Borcher in 7th, and then Isaac Price, Yuhu Abe and Jeremy Boutaloop round out your top 10. Once again, a great performance by Boutaloop right now. Starting in 18th, running himself right now inside the top 10. You have got to argue potentially though that he is on that alternate 2-stop strategy here today, looking to maximise his track position, and we'll keep an eye out to see whether or not he can move a little bit further inside the top 10. And he's right on the rear right now on Yuhu Abe as they work themselves down into turn number 10 one more time. Now that last lap, Hutu was able to get a bit more of a jump over Yakola, but Martin Conke right now is starting to close up to the rear of Yakola just a little bit as well. It's just going to keep our eye out to see whether Boutaloop is close enough to make a pass. He's not going to be this time by, so he's going to stay in that 10th position right now. However, he has got some very good top speed in that number 19 Radicals car, 203 miles an hour down into turn number 1. Andre Borcher is all over the rear of Oli Picala right now as they work out of turn number 2. Through that left-hand kink down into turn number 4, Jake.
Sorry, Will, I weren't paying attention to what you were saying there. Sorry,
That's right, no one ever does.
I was comparing the lap times between Luis and Hutu, and Hutu's just done the quickest lap of the race with a 1:07.700. He's definitely closing that gap down. It's down to 2.6 seconds, and it was about 3.1 a minute ago.
It's very interesting, actually, I have to say, that Hutu, he does seem to be a bit lighter on fuel right now. Of course, we have got to remember that this is a 3-time WCS champion, so we know that he is going to be fast. Does seem to be the way his car is just navigating some of these corners. He does seem to be that he's on a lighter fuel load, because as this car is heavier, you've got to be a little bit more careful as you go, especially through the aerodynamically dependent corners. Andre Borcher is very close right now to the rear of Oli Picala. In that battle for the 6th position, he's going to go to the outside lines and come down into turn number 1. Will he be able to make the job stick? The answer is going to be not quite there, but he'll get a second bite at the cherry as they come out of turn number 2. And it does seem to be the story of the day. People will just try and unsettle the driver ahead of them, then get a good run out of 2, but this time by Borcher, not quite close enough to make that pass, but clearly is faster on the racetrack right now compared to the number 27 car of Ollie Picardo, Scott.
Yeah, it's a great scrap going on so far, and of course, just behind them as well, of course, we've got some great fights going on for that train of cars, which also Stephen Michaels is keeping on the tail of them, as is Enzo Benito, who's just fallen back from them. But the scrap of the race so far seems to be that battle between, you said, Ollie Picardo and Andre Butcher, and Butcher's just holding back a little bit as they head through Haystack and towards Lukey Heights. The Butcher's certainly having a great pace, and let's see if he can possibly duplicate a similar kind of move down into turns 9 and 10. He can't get that done so far, but he'll try once again to get the toe that he needs down the pit straight. He was incredibly strong that he had that toe towards turn 1, tried to think about it and move, but like I said, similar to what Gregor Houtu did, try and, as you said, set them up for turns on the exit of turn 2, get that run you need off of the corner, which then allows them to possibly get a move into turn 4. I see also that Isaac Price and Juho Albe could be prepared to swap positions as well, as could be also Boothleaf and Michael, so lots of battles going on in the bottom end of the top 10. 3 key battles going on, of course, a battle for 6 between Picardo and Butcher, between Price and Albe for 8, and between 10 between Boothleaf and Michaels, with Enzo Benito just behind in 12, several car lengths back. So lots of battles going on in the middle, at the bottom end of the top 10. But so far at the front, it's still Hugo Luis who leads by 2.289 seconds. But Gregor Houtu once again lapping faster, and he's just pumped in a 1 minute 7.523. He's closing that gap.
Borgia is off there, so he's very close to the rear of Ilka Parla, and he has lost, I think, about 7 positions on the racetrack. And another crash! Isaac Price spun around there, down into turn number 9. We'll come back onto the racetrack. Will everyone be able to avoid him? He's going to reverse that car, try and get it out of harm's way. But 2 big moments there in the space of 30 seconds in this event, which has really hurt the chances of 2 top 10 contenders. The first one was Andre Borton. I think actually Isaac Price might be stuck on a curb. No, he's finally good to go. It's uphill for him, so it'll be very difficult. And it's a blind apex corner, so he's going to be very careful. Lassie Van Hansen coming up behind him. He's got to make sure he goes wide. And Lassie Van Hansen almost goes off the racetrack. We'll get a replay up on your screen right now. But 2 big moments, and the first one involved the Andre Borcher in that number 9 car. He was trying to work on Ollie Picardo, and he just got himself a little bit wide on the racetrack, and that cost him about 7 positions on the racetrack. And then just ahead of it, pretty much simultaneously, you had UA trying to work side by side through the section of the racetrack with Isaac Price. And this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. This is a narrow racetrack, and UA just caught a bump there, Jake, on the inside. I think it was of turn number 8. Just caught a curb that speared him back into the racetrack, and pretty much Isaac Price's day is done as far as getting the top 10 is concerned.
Yeah, definitely Abe there. He just wasn't using his head, I don't think. He was thinking about the short run, not the long run there. He's just taken it up the inside there, I think. I don't know, that could actually be Isaac's fault. He's not left enough room, really. He's come down on Abe. Yeah, just watching it back now, it's actually Isaac's fault. He shut the door on Abe when he's up the inside, something that no race driver should ever do when there's a car up your inside, because you know it's just going to end your race, or maybe both of you. But definitely that was the minute or so of the hottest action of this race.
And Isaac Price, he brought his car onto pit road, tried to bring it back out, and he actually just put that car back onto the pit exit road, and he is now retired from this race. And meanwhile, we're going to check in on Stephen Michaels, who's now up into the top 10 and very close to the rear of Jeremy Bouteloup. Oh, a big moment again there, and Michaels flips him through the middle. Michaels gets 2 positions in 1 corner, and this race is just taking a big turn, as it was Juho Abe getting very sideways out of turn number 4. Jeremy Bouteloup had to slow down to avoid him, and then Stephen Michaels just split both those drivers in the middle. Somehow, he got himself some good luck for the first time this season, and Stephen Michaels moves himself up into P7 on the racetrack. Scott, that was a very close call, but good driving there by all 3 of them to keep it on the racetrack.
It really was, and he said that all started when Juho Abe just lost traction on the exit turn 4, just put his foot down the accelerator a little too much. That loosened the rear end on that Ronin racing car, and that meant that he went around, and it was incredible skills by Boothleaf, because Boothleaf had to check up to avoid contact, and Stephen just said, thank you very much, boys, through the middle from 9th to 7th in 1 move. And it seems to be that area of the racetrack from turns 4 to 4, 5 and 6 through Honda Corner, the King of 5, then with turn 6 left-hand of Siberia, and then the run off of that. Seems to be catching out today. But also one driver that's brought back into play because of that is Enzo Benito. He's right on the tail of Juho Abe as they come into turn 4. Can't get a move done, but he's right on the gearbox of the Japanese driver as they head to exit as well. And once again, they're getting very loose on the exit of that corner. Very tricky to get the power down there on such a tight corner. But Enzo's certainly looking racy. He's now up into the top 10, found a little bit of pace and seeing that these cars have been making a few mistakes and they've come back towards him. So he's been very patient in this position that he's been. But thankfully it's all starting to work out for him a little bit more. So he will, at least at this pace, still get himself a top 10. But whether or not he can move himself up to the field remains to be seen. He's very, very close. Could it even get a run down the pit straight on Yuhu Abe and possibly Butcher as well, depending on what happens. Booth Loop, sorry, if I'm depending on how that works down the pit straight. But I think Abe's possibly got the better toe on Booth Loop in front, which means that Benitez is going to be left in the cold a little bit. But very fast and frantic in the bottom end of the top 10. Lots of action going on there as Hutu continues to close in the gap between himself and Luis to 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, and like last time by, took a couple of tenths of a second off that gap. It was a 187.2 for Gregor Hutu. Meanwhile, for Hugo Luis, it was a 187.4. That gap is down to 1.4 seconds on the racetrack. And if he gets any closer, he'll be in draft range as well, which will really help him down some of these very long straightaways at this racetrack. Although, to counter that out, it will hurt him a little bit through that section of the racetrack through turn 6 all the way through to turn number 10. But it's been a crazy couple of laps, and also Enzo Benito is now scored inside the top 10 after starting this race in 17th position. Still not the result that Redline driver would necessarily have wanted, Jake, but finally Benito is back in the top 10, which is exactly what he would want to have done in that first stint.
Yeah, definitely. Finally a bit of luck for him. He's not had the best run of luck so far, should we say, this season. He's had it hard, he's had it tough. But I think his strategy so far, sitting back, letting the drivers fight and battle, it's worked for him. He was sitting in, I think it was about 13th or 14th position. And now them drivers racing too hard against each other allows him to get into that top 10 position and all important vital championship points for him.
And of course, we are getting closer to that first pit stop, so it'll be an interesting thing to happen there. We're getting word, actually, there's a little bit of action going on the inter-team radios right now. Marcus Caton was a little bit upset about the fact that he was being held up behind Alex Simpson. He has now been able to make that pass over the number 35 Apex Racing UK driver, and that all started as he came out the final corner. Caton was able to get the slipstream, move himself to the right-hand side of the racetrack, and was able to clear Alex Simpson down into that first corner of the racetrack. But Caton was getting a little bit agitated behind Alex Simpson and finally is now into some clean traffic once again. And some of these drivers on a two-stop chassis, they will be in the next 2 to 3 laps, potentially. So some of these drivers, Scott, they know that they are at the peak of what they need to be as far as lap time is concerned. They know they've got to start pushing.
They really do, and it's all about that clear air advantage that we talked about. If they can get themselves around drivers and make them as many places as they can, it's drivers like Hugo Luis in the early stages who made use of that clear air that he had. Of course, with clear air, he's still losing time to Gregor Hutu, who's still lapping quicker than him at the moment. But like I said, I mean, at the moment, Lex Usiakola in third place, he's got clear air to Hutu in front of him, but he's been kept honest by Martin Kroenke in 4th position. But all these guys, effectively, if they can use the free space they have around them to their advantage, they put in some quick lap times so they're not getting held up by people, and if they can get around the traffic that they're trying to encounter, because remember, there's about still, if you look on the racetrack, there's about still 32 cars on the racetrack as far as I can see, so that's still a lot of cars on a circuit like Phillip Island, and because it's so narrow and twisty, as much as being very fast at the same time, doesn't make passing very easy, but there are those spots that you can take up, but they're very few and far between. So these guys, again, they have to try and take as much advantage as they can in terms of the clear space they have to get the time and the pace they need to take full advantage of that once they get to the time for the pit stops. But Hutu is now within a second's range of Hugo Luis, so I'm pretty sure at this pace we're probably going to get a pass change of position between these two before they're possibly their either one only stop or their first of 2 stops here this afternoon.
And that gap is now down to 9 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Just to let you know, by the way, Yuhu Abe continues his battle with Jeremy Booterloop and Stephen Michaels on the racetrack. Michaels is running in the 7th position. Booterloop is running in 8th, and then in 9th is Yuhu Abe. Enzo Benito about a second back from this battle going on the racetrack right now. And of course, Michaels was able to get that position as Booterloop had to avoid an incident of Yuhu Abe, and now Booterloop right on the rear of Stephen Michaels once again. Will he be close enough? Not quite into turn 5 to make the pass, but Hutu is flying right now as we're into lap number 24 of 69 here. The question is going to be, will he be able to get himself past Hugo Luis before he has to make that pit stop, or will he dive down onto pit road and will he be on a 2-stopper or a light 1-stopper? The pit window is now open for drivers who are on a 2-stop window, and that means they'll be in anywhere between about now and about lap 28. drivers who are on a one-stop strategy, you expect to see them in anywhere between about lap 32 and lap 42 on this racetrack, and you can really extend the fuel window here, Jake. So even if you are on a one-stopper, you can be on a light one-stopper to try and literally just slice this race in half compared to what we see at some events when they go almost 2/3 distance before they make their 180 pit stop. And Eunice Mercurium has also spun as well, and he was running outside of the top 20. He was running in P25, and he's had a spin in that number 38 car.
Yeah, definitely. You can see drivers stretch the fuel longer and longer. They start cruising and coasting, trying to get it further if they've got that gap. Like, I don't know if that's what Luis has been doing, but he doesn't seem to be on the same pace he was earlier on in the race. Whether he's cruising for that fuel because he thinks he can't make it, we don't know. But definitely the guys that are good at stretching the fuel so far this season have been the Glacier Racing guys, Giacola and obviously Picara 2 weeks ago at Road America. The way he stretched that out, he was the last car on pit road, but the first car out, and obviously that gave him that win there. So stretching the fuel and that strategy with the fuel and the tyres is definitely something these drivers have to think about long and hard to say, what's going to be the quicker option? What's going to be the better option for me to take as well? Because some drivers, they'll fit into the one-stop strategy. Some drivers would rather take less fuel, and take more tyres. And then that's their way of driving. Each driver has their own style, and we're about to find out in a couple of laps' time who's on what strategy.
And Hutu really has closed that gap now. It's down to less than 3/4 of a second on the racetrack as we work ourselves on lap number 26. For more information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, head over to wcs.iracing.com for all the latest news, information and updates. Of course, the same applies to the NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com. Combine the two premier sim racing series in all of sim racing. And today on RaceSpotTV, we've got not one, not two, but 3 races for you. After we finish here at Phillip Island, we head over to Alabama, to Barber Motorsports Park for ISOWC action, and we conclude our day with Skip Barber Racing at Road America. A full slate of action for you today, exclusively live on RaceSpotTV. Right now, that gap is down to half a second, and Hutu has got that draft, works himself onto lap number 27 on the racetrack. That gap is down to now just 0.4 of a second, and Hutu arguably could make the move in the next 2 laps or so. One of the things I did notice, however, is as we always see with the red line drivers, he hasn't got the fastest car in a straight line, and his 7th gear, it does seem to be, that might hurt him just a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. This is the battle all the guys from the past seasons wants to see, is these two drivers. They want to see Luis and Hutu battle it out, because they have produced some of the best racing in iRacing history in this series, and that's what they're going to do again in a minute. But Hutu definitely looking the faster car. That top end speed, as you say, Will, them red line racing cars, they don't always seem to have that straight line speed, but when they're sitting in the draft of their rivals like Luis, they don't need that top end speed, because they can use that draft to carry the speed and momentum and then make that pass, like we're about to see from Hutu as he closes in, now just down to 0.415.
He's going to try and make the pass. He's going to try and slide him up into turn 4. Not quite close enough this time, but in fact goes a bit deep into the corner there for Gregor Hutu. So he is now really pushing. Last time by a 107.053 for the 3-time champion. The 1-time champion leading this race did a 107.121. They combined, by the way, have a 4-second advantage over Alexei Giacola, who is now matching the lap times of your race leader. So that is something that we will bear in mind over the course of the next 5 to 10 laps as things spin. And we've got word that Oli Picardo has had an incident on the racetrack. We'll come back to that one in just a moment's time, because Hutu is as close as he's ever been as he comes out of turn number 12. And this could be potentially the opportunity in the next 30 seconds for him to make the gap. Of course, this time last year, it was Hutu getting passed by Max Lorco. This time by Gregor Hutu goes down to the inside into turn number 1 as he tries to take that race lead away from Hugo Luis. Will he get the job done? The answer is going to be yes, he is. The 3-time champion is back to the point here at Phillip Island, a little bit looser out of turn number 2, but Gregor Hutu is once again leading in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. To give you an update about Oli Picardo as well, he spun his car down at the hairpin. and a bad qualifying for Ollie Peccara. Then it ends up to a bad moment in the race. Ollie Peccara moved down from what is P6 to P11 on the racetrack. He got passed by like Jaguar cars, which included Andre Borcha, Enzo Benito, and you also have the likes of Yuhu Abe, Jeremy Bootloop involved in that as well. But the important story for those of you just joining us, after starting P4, Gregor Hutu now leads the 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. You've got to see whether he comes on pit road this time by, because that pit window is open, but he doesn't. He stays out on the racetrack. Hugo Louise is now about 5/10 of a second further back, and Scott, it's a game changer.
It really is. I did my original prediction possibly might be coming true at this rate, because I did originally predict that Gregor Hutu could have a chance to win it, and even though he's back off the pace in 4th in qualifying, he certainly seems to have incredible race pace, and he's just shown that all the way since the start, making his way through past Martin Kroenke, then past Alexei Usiakola, and then finally just a lap ago making that move on Hugo Louise to take the lead. And those who are fans of Gregor, it'll be great to see them. I'm sure they'll appreciate the fact that he is back in front of an iRacing WCS race once again. He is leading and also pulling away from Hugo Louise, so it seems as though that whatever advantage Hugo had in the beginning seems to be wearing off, because Hugo's certainly got himself dialed in at the moment, and he is absolutely flying at that at the moment. And Hugo Louise so far, it appears to me, he doesn't seem to have that much of a response. Remember, of course, as we mentioned, Alexei Usiakola is running pretty much exactly the same pace, but even so, he needs to be trying to go even faster than that, because he's not taking too much time. In fact, look at his lap times by. It's pretty incredible, actually. I take that back, because Gregor Hutu's last lap time runs to come on back onto the pit straight a 1:07.3. Hugo Louise is a 1:08.0. Alexei Usiakola is the man on the move, a 1:06.948. So as we said, the Glacier Racing cars, they take a while to get wound up. Once they do, they absolutely fly. And Alexei Usiakola has managed to pull a gap from Kroenke, and he's in 3rd place at the moment, closing in.
But last time by, Gregor Hutu did a 1:06.749, so incredibly fast for the 3-time champion. And of course, we are getting closer to that first round of pit stops. We talk about how Yakola needs to be a little bit closer. I actually disagree with that one, because as we've seen all season long, the lap times, when you pit a lap 2 laps earlier, it is critical. And let's not forget, at the start of this race, it's 1:08 that are being run for Alexei Usiakola. He's now down in the low 1:07. So 2 seconds potentially. You have 2 laps later on pit stops. All of a sudden, Yakola could be in the race lead at this event. However, right now, there's a possibility of these drivers really having a great scrap once again to run through your top 10. Gregor Hutu leads the way, Hugo Louise 2nd, Alexei Usiakola in 3rd, Martin Kroenke in 4th, Jordan Tamada 5th, Stephen Michael 6th, Jeremy Bootloop in 7th, Yuhu Abe in 8th, Enzo Benito in 9th, and then Andre Borcha rounds out your top 10. For those of you just joining us, Ollie Peccara just had a spin about 2 laps ago, which put him outside the top 10. Your retirees from this event so far: Ilka Hapada had contact with Jake Sturgis on lap number 1. Rocco Barone had a crash with which put him out of the race. Isaac Price has had a crash, he is out. And then you've got Matthias Egger, he ran out of fuel, and he is now classified as out of the race. Robin Kriskops, Paul Ilbrink, Paolo Mulia are all scored 1 lap down. And Jake, this race is really getting exciting now, because anything can happen in the next 10 laps. But these 10 laps are critical, not just for this race, but championship momentum.
Yeah, definitely now these laps, they're dwindling away for this race. Hutu obviously leads the way now with that amazing pass there on Louise. But the championship, this race could be crucial in the championship. Same as Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. These 2 races can determine what happens for the rest of the season and set some drivers up for the championship and for first, or it could set some drivers up for their top 25 to regain their license. But at the moment, Hutu just pulling a gap every single lap. It's now nearly a 2-second gap, and he's only been leading for 2 laps. And this race is going to get even more exciting in the next couple of laps, Will. When you see the pit stops come in, we're now on lap 33, 2 more laps, and we'll see them 2 stoppers come in.
Yep, and we have got a couple of people who already have come onto pit road. Paul Ilbrink was the first one to really blink in that circumstance, and I believe Marcus Caton has just left pit road. He will now be classified down the field. We'll get confirmation. Actually, I think Marcus Caton has stayed out on the racetrack, so he hasn't yet made a pit stop. He's just running very close to the left-hand side of the racetrack that last time by. But we're on lap number 33 of this event right now, so we are getting closer and closer to half race distance. And I think the important thing for Gregor Hutu is he's now just got to pound out the laps, go as fast as he can, and we know Gregor Hutu can do this. He's done it year after year after year, just some consistently quick and fast laps. which has been the difference maker in these events. Hugo Luis, of course, he's raced better part about this stage of the race 2 weeks ago, Scott, and he's got to be careful because a bad pit stop could again see him outside of the podium, and that will really hurt his claim to being potentially a two-time champion at some point this year.
That's exactly right. I mean, of course, we saw exactly the same thing happen to Hugo Luis. He was up at the front, then regardless of the fact he got passed by iWCGPS, the reason why he didn't finish on the podium was simply because he made a mistake in his pit stop, put a little bit too much fuel in by accident. He miscalculated it, and because of that, he was kept in his pit box for a little bit too long, and that allowed Olli Picala to just get out first ahead of him, and that's what effectively gave Olli Picala the race victory by staying out the longest out of anyone along with Hugo Luis. But he took the full advantage of that one. Of course, Ollie's not having so much luck today. He's not exactly running the top 10 at the moment. He's back in 11th spot, just ahead of Mogar Philo, and he's still about almost about 3 seconds away from the back end of the top 10 with Andre Butcher. But Gregor Hutu almost 2 seconds ahead now in the lead and continue to extend it, so I'm pretty sure he's going to stay out for this lap time at all. Let's see if Hugo Luis does dive to pit road. He stays out also. iWCGPS does as well. No change from Martin Kronk either, or Yoni Tamala either. So the top 5 are all comfortable with their fuel loads at the moment, but this is crucial. Now we're in the middle part of the race now, at half distance. These are the crucial laps. How much longer can these guys afford to stay out for in terms of how much fuel they've got on left, their tyre life as well, and secondly, practically what pace they're setting. They're also setting 1:06.4, so good run so far, but it's the next few laps is going to be crucial as to who pits when and how it all shakes out after the pit stops.
Enzo Benito, by the way, has been able to get himself past Andre Butcher, moving himself up into P9 on the racetrack. There is a bit of train going on right now with Stephen Michaels, and of course this all started when Michaels able to get past Bootloop and Yuhu Abe, as they had that moment. We talked about that a little while ago, but Benito's now caught up to the rear of this train. Andre Butcher is in that train. Olli Picala, this could work out well for him if this carries on, because it will allow him to get back into touching distance of some of the drivers who he lost positions to after he had that spin down at turn number 4. But Bootloop and Yuhu Abe, they continue their battle they've had all race long. But Enzo Benito, it does seem to be that he's just biding his time right now, potentially just saving a little bit of race fuel, potentially to try and get himself going an extra lap to leapfrog these drivers. Enzo Benito, of course, started well down the order today in that number 17 Team Redline car, and has been struggling for pace in this race at certain parts of it. He has shown flashes of brilliance, and that's one of the things about Benito. We've seen some very good performances by him. The second half of the first race of the championship at Spa, for example, a great race at Interlagos by him. Of course, he had that DNF at Suzuka, which then kind of put a downward spiral in his season for the time being, as Bootloop just ran very, very wide there through turn number 1. Very lucky not to actually just spin that car out of control. The gap, by the way, out front is now 2.8 seconds. So there's a bit of lap traffic between ahead of Gregor Hutu. That is Jason Lover in the number 13 iNEX Racing car, who is scored a lap down on the racetrack in the iNEX Racing car. And Lovett's had a difficult season. He's had a difficult season all year long. We talked about this in Spotlight, how he wasn't able to get himself into the top 25 in points so far, and right now he's struggling to stay on even a second lead lap of the race leader Hutu. And yeah, we've got word that a driver's just coming onto pit road. We'll get confirmation of that in just one moment's time. Things really are getting strung up in this mid-pack of the field right now, as drivers continue to circulate on the racetrack. And Hutu, by the way, has been able to get himself past the lap traffic. That mid-pack battle is just phenomenal right now, Jake.
Yeah, definitely. This mid-pack battle has been going on since lap 1, really, when we had Isaac Price and people in there. It's definitely been the more, I think, the better part of the race, these middle few laps, especially with this middle pack as well. Yuhu Abe has shown some very, very strong signs in this race that, excuse me, he can fight with the best. He can fight with that top 10. He can get them positions, because he's not had the best run of luck looking at the last few weeks, but definitely this week he's done better. Enzo Benito as well. He's not had the best of luck again. Another driver who seems to be struggling this season from the past seasons he's had. But another guy, Stephen Michaels, incredible pass earlier. Incredible pass. He just split them in two, and he just went through them, and he's running 6th at the moment, and he's looking very, very strong.
Arguably the move of the race so far. Michelle Chisney and Christian Laurent are battling for the last place inside the top 20 right now. They're separated by just 0.6 of a second on the racetrack right now. And ahead of them, you've got Kazuki Omishima. Now, Omishima started this race dead last in that number 43 car. been able to move up almost halfway through the field and is now running in the 19th position on the racetrack. So a great drive by the rookie Omishima, who, let's not forget, missed the first round of the championship. He qualified for the event and his car just wouldn't get off the line, and he was classified as it did not start in that event. Omishima right now is running in the 19th position on the racetrack. In fact, last time by, he was running a little bit faster, in fact a lot faster than Fulvio Barrazzini, 6 tenths of a second faster than the Triple M machine, that is Fulvio Barrazzini. We still have a total of 27 cars scored on the lead lap. Jason Lovatt is the first driver, scored 1 lap down. Then you got Paolo Mulia, Paul Ilbrink and Robin Friscops also scored a lap down. Of course, Ilbrink and Friscops had some damage at the start of this race, and that is the reason why they are in the position they are. And continuing to have a look, and pit road stays a very empty place. But Borgia, I'm a little bit surprised by him right now, because he fell behind Enzo Benito, Scott, and he's just not made any impact on this train of cars ahead of him.
No, he hasn't. I think he's possibly got a little bit caught up with the cars in front in terms of their turbulent air. I mean, I can see that Enzo Benito and Yuhei are battling away in front of him, so that could possibly be proving a distraction. But, I mean, the longer he stays behind them and the longer that these two continue to fight, that it means that Butcher's going to keep losing time, especially to Oli Picala behind, because he's not too far away. He has dropped Mogar-Fila and pushed on to try and get forwards as well. But the boss man of this top 10 is still fighting fast and frantic and fighting away with each other. Stephen Michaels has pulled away from Jeremy Boosloop and Yuhei, but Enzo Benito is staying with them as well. But Butcher himself is, yeah, he seems to be struggling a little bit with pace. I mean, he was strong early on, of course. He qualified up in around the top 5, but he's just not found the race pace so far. So possibly not as a problem or just struggling for pace in this middle stint. Not so clear on what the problem is. Maybe just be lacking the ultimate speed to be up there. But at least he's still in a points-paying position and in a top 10 place for the rest of the 3ID guys who are currently running in the top 10. Strong one so far overall, but Butcher needs to pick the pace up in the second half of the race.
And we are now past half race distance in this event. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the next time we'll be with you for the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series will be in 2 weeks' time at the historic, majestic Watkins Glen International, as we enter the greatest month of racing in the world, the month of May, and we kick it off with the 6th round of the championship at Watkins Glen International. Now, the gap between Gregor Huttu and Hugo Luis is now up to 3.8 seconds on the racetrack. Now, this is critical, because even if Huttu does pit 2 laps earlier, he's now got about enough momentum to almost come out in the race lead. So another 2-3 laps like this, Gregor Huttu will really have the chance to go back to iRacing Victory Road. And what a drive it would be for the driver who qualified for this race in the 4th position, has passed all of the people on the racetrack ahead of him. Martin Conke, he had that great battle with him at the start of the race, eventually able to get past him. Alexei Yusiakoda got past him in a stunning move. And then, of course, the inside into turn number 1, he got himself past that one-time WCS champion Hugo Luis. Gregor Huttu that last time by a 106.377, and Hugo Luis did a 106.680. We compare this to qualifying times right now. Gregor Huttu's only running about 3 tenths of a second slower than his qualifying time. So, Jake, we know that fuel is burning off on that number 1 Redline car. We expect him on pit road in the next 2 laps.
Yeah, I do reckon Huttu's going to be down that pit road soon. But he's done what he needed to do and what his strategy has said if he is making that one stop, like I think most drivers will be doing now. He's taken the lighter fuel load for the start though, which could change the end of the race, but he has pulled that gap to 4 seconds now, which I'm not going to say guarantees him the victory, but it puts him in the driving seat for it. Another guy back, he had a slow start, Jacola, sorry. He had a really slow start, to be honest, dropping away from the top 2. But now he's gradually getting that pace back. He's only 5 seconds between him and Huttu, but him and Luis is only 1.6 seconds. I don't know what the gap is going to drop to here. Gap between Huttu and Luis is, the gap is increased even more now. It's nearly 2 seconds. So maybe Jacola's got a few problems, we don't know, but he was closing the gap, so
lap traffic though will be interesting. Lap traffic I think was involved that last lap. Lap traffic is going to involve Luis this time by, because he's got 2 cars ahead of him, Fabio De Carmo and Lassie Brunhansen, who he's going to have to deal with in the next couple of corners. Now, if he doesn't get past them both, and he won't get them past both into turn number 5, he might get past De Carmo. No, he won't. Yes, De Carmo runs a little bit wide there to allow Hugo Luis to go past. However, that actually doesn't make life too difficult for Luis, because he's about far enough ahead. He won't get too much aerodynamic push there on his car as he closes up to the rear of Lassie Brunhansen. and I believe Yakoda, he did. He was able to get past Takamo there as well. So that was useful. And I'd say, look at the gap, the way it's come down actually this last lap, because Yakoda has really closed up to the rear now of Hugo Louise through that sequence of corners. It's just the exit of turn number 10 is where Hugo Louise is just so good, getting that power down. And he's going to get a bit of a slipstream as well as he comes past the start-finish line. So Hugo Louise all of a sudden is now 5.4 seconds behind race leader Gregor Hutu, but the gap between himself and Yakoda is down to 1.3 seconds on the racetrack, Scott.
It really is, and I said that's the importance of trying to get through that lap traffic, and we talked about this as well, didn't we? Effectively, you know, it's all about the stints where if you can't get around the cars quick enough, you're going to lose so much time. This is a classic case in point, and we have seen now that Louise has got around Lasseter and Hansen, which means now it's left to Yakoda to do the same. I think it's a little bit twitchy on the exit of turn 4, but thankfully he does manage to get around him this time, and Yakoda can now continue his pursuit. And it does seem to me as though that Yakoda, even though he's closed in, I think Louise has still got the ultimate pace, and he will start to eke that gap out once again. But now the question is, we're now on lap 43 of 69. There's going to be another 26 laps to go. All depends who's going to pit in now. Of course, it looks like Gregor Hutu will stay out for another lap, as will possibly Hugo Louise. Be a bit of a twitch through turn 11, and he stays out. What about Yakoda? He stays out as well. And what about the rest of the top 5? Kroenke stays out, and I think Tomala will also. So no change just yet, but we're just waiting patiently to see who blinks first and who's taking advantage of a fresh set of tyres and a full load of fuel for the rest of the race.
Just to correct you there, Scott, that Stephen Michael, sorry, I'll get it correct in a minute. He has just come down pit road. He was running 6th. He's now dropped all the way back to 20 seconds.
Yeah, and of course, everyone else will make their pit stop soon, but this is going to be really difficult for Michaels unless he gets himself some clean traffic, which I'm just having a look now at that Mid-South racer, and he has. Pit lane.
Abe is down pit road as well.
Yep, and we've got another car coming out of pit road, and that is Fabio Carmo. And this is a new pit exit, by the way. They do not have to run on the outside of turn number 1. They can cut across the racetrack, which gives them a better line into the corner. Fabio Carmo getting out of the way of the Triple M car there of Fulvio Barazzini as he comes in. And Gregor Hutu, his pace that last time by was just absolutely phenomenal. A 106.047, and he does another lap. Let's see what it's going to be here for Hutu. That last lap was actually faster than his qualifying lap as he comes past the track, a 106.203. So Hutu really is flying right now. He's gone faster than he's been in qualifying. And Jake, pit road gets a little bit busier that last time by. Abe's made a pit stop. We saw as well Fabio Carmo's made a pit stop. But it's these next couple of laps which I think are going to be a difference maker as we're now onto lap number 44 of 69 down under in Phillip Island.
Yeah, definitely these pit stops now, they're going to be coming in thick and fast. This pit road's going to be getting busy, so drivers are going to want to play it out right. They don't want to be coming down too early, should I say, for when it's busy. You come down early when it's busy, when it's a busy pit lane, when every driver thinks, yeah, we can pit early in this race. But that's sometimes not going to work for drivers, because that's when the pit lane seems to be a lot busier. When everyone thinks, yeah, we can pit at this time or this time. Because drivers like Hutu and Luis and Yakoda and other people in the top 10, they don't want to get caught up with the black traffic that are in pit road.
Okay, then Hutu's in. Hutu is onto pit road this time by. Martin Kroenke is coming in this time by as well. So the first of the big hitters are coming onto pit road. And to say, Martin Kroenke onto pit road, Hugo Louise onto pit road this time by. Alexei Yakoda is the one who stays out of at least that first lap. Now this is critical because Hugo Louise couldn't go any further. That means that Hutu will come out with the race lead unless there's any incidents on pit road. 4 fresh tyres for the 3-time champion. Going to top up the race fuel as well. You see Hugo Louise coming into his pit box as well. Hutu is out and away. Hugo Louise is still getting some fuel. Martin Kroenke into his pit box. 4 fresh tyres for him. Hugo Louise will be out and away in just one moment's time. Here he goes. But your new race leader is Alexei Yakoda. It's a hugely busy place right now on pit road. You've got pretty much everyone is onto pit road this time by. There's just a couple of people who stayed out. Alexei Yakoda, Yorin Tamara, Jeremy Boutelib have all stayed out on the racetrack. And I believe Andre Borcha has as well. But your big hitters have come onto pit road that time by. Let's see whether the number 26 car of Alexei Yakoda will be able to go another lap after this. He's got lap traffic ahead of him. This could be a difference maker. See if he has to come onto pit road this time by, or can go next time. And the answer is going to be he is going to stay out and do another lap. Scott, that is huge.
Really is exactly what we saw in Suzuka and Red America, staying out longer. Generally tending to benefit. He's come up to lap Martin Miguel in the Miguel Martin in the Twister race machine. Oh, and just sweeps across the front of him. That could have been dangerous if he got any closer. But Alexei Yakoda, he's running. His lap times, I don't think, are quick enough. It's a 1 minute 6.5. He's not on the same pace that Luis. He's not about 0.3, about as much as half a second off the pace that Hugo Luis and Gregor Huttu are running. So staying up longer, I'm not sure if it's going to benefit him at all. We'll have to wait and see exactly what the first lap times are as they come through. I mean, Huttu's lap time off the pit road was a 1 minute 10.199 for his out lap, so that's a pretty quick lap. But also Hugo Luis is back behind Ollie Picala and Marty Piatello, who, again, remember, both those two and Booth Loop in second, of course, yet to stop. So Huttu has actually, in the pit stops, actually dragged his gap out by another 2.4 seconds or so. So the gap I can see is now about 7.8 seconds. So he's actually pulled out even more time, thanks to the fact that he got a quicker pit stop and also managed to get out in front of that traffic.
Yakoda stays out for another lap. This actually now can swing things around because the guys at the start of the run were predicting 108, 107. It was a 106.1 that last time by for Alexei Yakoda. So he will come sweep around the outside of the lap traffic down into turn number 1. This is going to be close now for Yakoda because he was about 5-6 seconds back. If he can do maybe one more lap, that could be it, Jake. Yakoda once again can surprise everyone, and of course Picard, it looks as though that he's staying out as well. He's right behind Gregor Huttu, and in fact he might try and pass Gregor Huttu, who did a 1 minute 7.3 that last time by. And if Picard can get past Huttu or make it a little bit of an issue for him, then we can have a really interesting race. And Picard gets a much better run at turn number 2 that time by. Don't think he's quite close enough to make a run down into turn number 4, but he's closing. Will Picard go down to the inside this corner? This could help his teammate out. If he does, he'll go down to the inside and he'll make the pass. On Picard passing Gregor Huttu. And Jake, that might just have helped Yakoda win the race.
Well, this race is really hotting up now.
Yakoda's it.
Will.
The
leader is in pit road.
So,
Here we go. This could be interesting now. We've got to wait for the times. Huttu is 22 seconds back when they cross the line on lap 48. Will he be able to bring that back down? Kara, will he stay out or will he take the lead? We don't know. I reckon he's got fuel left. He has got fuel left.
Yeah, Picard stays out.
This could be a big helping hand here for his teammate Jacola. If he can hold his teammate up. Jacola's now coming out of pit road. Huttu passes him though. Huttu is away.
Yeah, and Huttu gets himself a huge advantage there, so it wasn't quite close enough there for Alexei Yakoda. Let's see where he is in comparison to Hugo Luis, however, because he is ahead now of Hugo Luis. Yakoda was able to make the jump there on the number 3 Ferrari racing car of Hugo Luis, but it is Gregor Huttu leading the way out front, and by my watch, it is about 6 seconds on the racetrack, Scott, and even though Picard was able to get past, do a bit of an Irvine 97 there on Gregor Huttu, wasn't anywhere near close enough. Huttu is back in form.
Yeah, I think to be fair, looking at that, I think Huttu could see that coming. I think even though it looked a little bit easier how we let him past it, because I think it was. I think Huttu, with the smart brain that he has, realised that Picard hadn't stopped yet. He was on a lighter fuel and thought, look, there's no point me battling Ollie Picard at this point. He hasn't stopped yet. I have. I'm on fresher tyres. I've got to get them up to temperature. I'm going to lose even more time. All that time that I gained in the pit stop to Hugo Luis, Picard does indeed pit. So Huttu will regain the lead. So effectively, it was beneficial for him to let Picard go, because the quicker that move was done, the quicker he could settle down and think, right, let's just let Picard get as many laps that he needs to get out before he makes his pit stop. I can settle down and continue on my pace. He's still running at low 1 minute 7s, so not exactly up to pace just yet, but he's got a few more laps to try and get those tyres up to temperature. But even so, his gap is now 4.7 seconds over Alexei Yakoda and 7.3 seconds over Hugo Luis. So for the moment, Huttu, as we said, back in form. He is currently looking like the 3-time champion that we know and love, and he is up there at the front and dominating so far with 19 laps still to go.
And this is the thing that confuses me again. Second race in a row, Hugo Luis has lost out big on pit stops. Now, I mean, Yakoda was able to split those two drivers, but Luis should have been a lot closer to do with Alexei Yakoda right now. It just hasn't happened once again. Ollie Picard, by the way, comes out back onto the racetrack and he is ahead of Jeremy Bouteloup. So this will be somewhere in a net 6th position for Ollie Picard in that number 27 machine, if our timing and scoring is correct, which we believe it is. However, there's some dancing going on in the mid-pack right now between Miguel Martin, Jake Sturgis and Christian Laurent, and it looks like Jake Sturgis is very close to the rear of Laurent right now, and Sturgis has fallen back in this race. He qualified 19th, moved his way for the field, he had a half spin onto pit road, Jake, and now he's pretty much back where he started with 20 laps to go.
Yeah, definitely. The pit stops were relatively clean for this track. Sometimes you do get the odd accident on the exit of the pits. But the only thing that really happened here was Sturgiosi got a little loose under braking, obviously trying to slow the car down, maybe not had enough practice for it. But as you say, Hugo Luis, second race running, he has lost out big time on them vital championship points that he needs to win that title. I don't know whether he doesn't practice the pit stops or not, but he doesn't seem as quick as Hutu and Jacola, Cronke, Carla, you know. He doesn't seem as quick coming into pit road. He seems to slow down earlier than the rest of the drivers, and he also seems to be a little more cautious coming down pit road and going into his pit box, where other drivers, they'll do it how they want to do it. They'll just dive it in last minute, slam the brakes on, and then turn her in the pit lane, and they don't care when they come out of pit road. But definitely Luis is losing out.
Let's have a look, because the pit-in time was a 1:33.284 there for Hugo Luis, an outlap of a 1 minute 10.298. We know his lap time was fast, it was lower than Gregor Hutu's on pit exit. However, you see, it was on pit entry, a 1:31.5 there for Gregor Hutu, and just to reiterate that again, it was a 1 minute 33 pit entry for Hugo Luis. I mean, that's the sort of thing that you cannot do if you try to compete for a championship. For Alexei Yakola, a 1:31.5 as well. Now, Hugo Luis is a one-time WTS champion, Scott, but this is not the sort of thing he can do if he wants to stay in the hunt for this championship, because arguably that cost him the chance to battle with Alexei Yakola at the end of this race, period.
It really has. I mean, Hugo Luis effectively, you're surprised if he's actually been cautious at anything, but I can understand that effectively the pit entry for Phillip Island is pretty tricky, but then again, it's something he probably should have taken into account for this race weekend. He should have seen that and thought, right, you know, I know exactly what happened in Road America and the time I lost in the pit lane. He needs to make sure that doesn't happen again, as we said, because he loses too much time and places in the pit lane. He lost about 2 or 3 seconds to Gregor Hutu in his pit stop alone. That was purely because of his in-lap. Now, whether or not other parts of his lap were compromising, like maybe some traffic or lap time, for example, I'm not sure. But Hugo Luis, he just needs to work on that, and for the next round coming up, he needs to make sure that his pit-ins and his in-laps are as quick as possible and try and work on those for the next round, because if he doesn't, as you said, it's going to cost him more valuable time and points and places, which means he will not be a retaining champion for the second time, and he could easily be handing this to the likes of Gregor Hutu or Alexei Yakola if he's not careful.
So, let's reset it for you with a total of 53 laps of the 69 event scored complete. Gregor Hutu is classified as your race leader. He started 4th in this event. He was able to get past Martin Cronke, get past Alexei Yakola, and get past Hugo Luis, who was the leader at the time, and he has led ever since. He came into pit road the same lap as Hugo Luis and has been able to maintain that advantage since pit stops as well. Alexei Yakola right now is scored in the 2nd position on the racetrack. Hugo Luis in 3rd, Martin Cronke 4th, Jordi Tamara in 5th, Oli Picardo 6th, Jeremy Bouchleep in 7th, Enzo Benito in 8th, Andre Borch in 9th, and then Martin Patila rounds out your top 10. Now, very quickly, Jake, let's talk about Enzo Benito and Oli Picardo, because they've both had recovery drives here today. Oli Picardo had that spin down at the hairpin, which dropped him from potentially going for a podium, because he did go longer than everyone else, to having to battle with the cars outside the top 10. But he's back in P6. Enzo Benito, he had a dire qualifying in that number 17 red line car, and he qualified for this race in 17th position. He's now running 8th.
Yeah, definitely. Enzo Benito, as we said earlier, he's not had the best run of luck so far this season, has he, Will? We see he seems to struggle, as most drivers are, on the first part of the track, where he sort of got caught up in that earlier accident, but then he sort of sat back after that, and he thought, let's let them race, and I'll just sit back and wait for them to make a mistake. And to be honest, that strategy has worked out for him so far, and I think that's the better strategy he needs to start taking more often if he wants to start gaining these championship points. Whereas for Oli Becerra, he was flying at the start of the race, but he got it terribly wrong into turn 4, and he just sent himself around. Maybe we had word that he may have had a few frame rate issues, but we'll have to find out about that after the race. But definitely a brilliant recovery drive. He dropped that back to about 16th, 17th position, and to go from 17th position, that are 45 seconds behind Gregor Hutu, up to 6th, now 27 seconds behind Gregor Hutu, is incredible for anyone's standards, and you cannot take away from him the quality and talent he has in this series.
And you have to say on Ricardo right now, he's had some difficult parts of this season. His qualifying was the issue earlier on, his qualifying was the issue here today. And then, of course, that slight little spin, which is really harming Ricardo's chances, but a good run by him. Enzo Benito, of course, now running in the 8th position on the racetrack as he moves himself up into 55 laps, scored complete 56 laps now for your race leader, Gregor Hooter, as he comes past the stripe once again. Some of these battles still could carry on the racetrack, and an interesting one to note is that Stephen Michaels lost out big time on pit stops. He was running inside the top 10, ahead of Jeremy Booteloop, Scott, in that 7th position, and now he's being passed by Hugh Abbey into turn number 12. You don't go down there, you! And he makes the job done. Michaels will have the opportunity to potentially get that run back down into turn number 1. They'll stay side by side into the first corner of the racetrack. I think Michaels will get the advantage as they come through this corner. Abe will have to yield. A good attempt there by Abe, but the execution just a little bit off there as Michaels retakes that position. But for Michaels, he lost out big by pitting 5 laps earlier than anyone else got.
He really did, but he might lose that place again because Abe's going to push him out. He always gets pushed up on the track by Michaels. He drops back to the inside of turn 4. He's forced Michaels to go a little bit too deep. Arby trying to get the better tracks next. They're going to be side by side towards Siberia corner for turn 6. Arby's got the outside line. Spuggy on the inside, and Michaels goes around on the apex. And I think Michaels now, I didn't quite see from my angle whether or not Arby turned in on him or whether he got beached, but he looks like he's going to possibly, he might get beached on the curb if he's not too careful. But yeah, that was just some risky side-by-side driving, and whether or not Michael was a bit too ambitious to try and hold the inside run, or Arbe moved across, I couldn't see from my point of view. Maybe it was a bit clearer from yours, Will, but I'm not sure. Very unfortunate for Michaels. It was a rather lacklustre afternoon anyway, of course. The battle with Abe was made it liven things up a little bit, but now it's just taken a massive turn for the worse, and yeah, down the field he goes as he starts to wait. Exactly the same problem Isaac Price had. He's not beached on the curb, he just can't find a gap in traffic to fall back into the race. In fact, he's out of the race now, he's pulled out.
But that's hugely disappointing, and the bad luck continues for that number 7 Twister racing car of Stephen Michaels, who was trying to have a battle. He said coming into the season he wanted to have a battle with Jake Sturgis to be the best road racer from North America in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We'll get a replay up of this on your screen in just a moment's time, because let's not forget this battle started in turn 12 the lap before. Then Abe tried to make the pass down into turn number 4, wasn't able to do so. Michaels went a little bit wide to allow him a bit of room, then went side by side into the corner, and then to turn number 5. Michael spun it all by himself there on the inside line, and it's one of those things, Jake, you run the same line every single lap, then all of a sudden you have to run a different line as the car's going on the outside, and you know, just the way you put the throttle down, it just seemed to be that he had too high a revs as he came through that corner, and that car at the rear end just snapped out on him as he went through the transition up the hill.
Yeah, definitely. These drivers, they don't practice that sort of racing line because they'll practice the racing line they want to do in clean air. They're not going to practice trying to pass someone there, especially at a track like this where you wouldn't think a pass would be pulled off there. But Michaels, he's not had the run of luck so far. Since that pit stop, he dropped back so many places, but he didn't have that sort of line. I think, to be honest, he should have yielded, and he did. I'm not going to say anything here because it's for iRacing stewards, but to me it looked like he did pull off a block going into turn 4, and he did say in chat as well that he doesn't mind if they penalise him for it, because obviously I think he thought he was blocking himself.
It's an interesting one, and of course Michaels is known to be a driver. When things are going wrong, he's very happy. When things aren't going his way, he can get a little bit ruffled. And it's one of those things there as well, because of the way that you take turn number 3 as well, you've got to fit, there's only really one line through there, but he did always push Abe off the racetrack through turn number 3. And having a look back through that replay myself, it does look potentially as if it was a bit of a very defensive move, potentially a block there as well. Of course, the iRacing stewards, Shannon Whitmore, Nimkosh Jr. and all those guys will have a look through this one. Abe was still able to stay side by side into the corner. I think at that point, after that move down to turn number 12, Michaels was just a little bit hot under the collar, and he didn't want to give that position for anything, Scott.
No, I think it's a bit tricky to try and call that one, I guess, but it's unfortunate for Michaels in the long run, because of course he has, as you said, had that real awful run of bad luck so far this season. He really hasn't had a fantastic start to the season after 5 races, and you just need to hope that luck picks up and just I think because he gets a little bit hot-headed because when things don't go his way, that seems to be compromising. He needs to take, possibly if he can, the next 2 weeks between now and the next round to possibly take a look and think, just to see how he holds himself as a driver mentally when it comes to being in situations like that. Because, you know, the one thing you have to try and do is remain calm at all times, because as soon as you get rattled, it can have a major effect on your driver, and you can easily make mistakes because you want to get on with things, you want to get the move done, you want to try and repass somebody who's got past you, or if there's been a bit of contact. So you have to try and stay as calm as possible and have the psychological advantage over the driver you're battling with, because as soon as you start to get mad, you've already given that advantage back to your opponent. So Marcus needs to sit back and possibly have a look at that in the next couple of races to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Another driver who's really come up through the field here today is Jeremy Buckley. We talked about him at the start of this race. He qualified 18th, is now running after pit stops in P7 in that number 19 Radical Steel Seal machine, as he is about 2 seconds back from Oli Picardo right now, with a 2-second buffer ahead to Enzo Benito. So another good ride there by Jeremy Buckley. And Jake, we talked about this at the beginning of the season. Ever since Pablo Lopez and Blake Townend left the Radical Steel Series WCS team, Buckley's really become their de facto #1 driver. And it does seem to be that he's really taken that role in good stead, because he had a great race at Spa last year coming through the field. He's done it again, I think, 3 times already this season. Not the best qualifier, but arguably one of the best races we have in this series.
Yeah, definitely. He seems to be more of a late race guy. He prefers the end of the race once he knows how the car feels on the track for 30 odd laps or so. He definitely seems to put the power down more later in the race. But definitely since them two have left the Radicals team, he does seem to be more focused on. Maybe that's not what he was getting before. He wasn't being focused on and helped maybe with his setup. But looking to other drivers as well though, Will, you've got to look at Kazuki Oshima. Started absolutely dead last with no intention of even getting in the top 30 maybe, or top 25. But look where he is now. He's made up 20 positions in these 61 laps so far, up into 15th, and he's running strong all over the back of Marcus Catton.
Oli Picardo, by the way, just getting past some lap traffic and Lassagrin Hansen. I thought it was a past position. It was not. But yeah, Kazuki Oshima again, he started dead last in this event. Very lucky. He only qualified by just about 1/10 of a second. But he right now is on the rear of Paul Ilbring. And in fact, that last time by was 7/10 of a second faster than him. Of course, Ilbring is lap traffic, so he's going to get past him. I'll take that one back. Oshima right now, though, is about 2 seconds on the rear of Marcus Catton, who in that number 25 car had a bit of a difficult middle sector of this race, as he felt he was being held up by Alex Simpson. But Catton right now is scored in the 13th position after qualifying 21st in this race. Less than 10 laps to go here at Phillip Island, and it is Gregor Husu still leading by 6.2 seconds over Alexei Yusiakoda. And you have to say Hugo Ruiz as well, Scott, in that 3rd position. He's kind of just faded ever since those pit stops. He's just, I don't know whether, you know, he's just going to bring that car home. Didn't realise he's going to be able to close up to the rear of Yakoda. But he's not really been pushing that car the same way we saw in that first stint. He's got the speed still, but not really making any impact since that battle for P2.
No, it's exactly what we saw back in Road America, and it's quite mystifying whether or not it's a psychological thing again, where it's possibly because he made a mistake in the pit stops and because he's fallen away and seeing Alexei Yusiakoda not exactly, he's been matching the pace and not exactly, but he's not been able to close that gap, and that maybe he's just kind of thought, well, effectively, I mean, his teammate Martin Kroenke and his teammates are 4th and 5th. They're as a bit of a backup and a barrier between him and Oli Picardo in 6th position. So maybe he's just thought to himself, well, it's still 3rd place, it's still a podium, it's just still solid points, I can still get myself a strong position in the championship with this result, so maybe pushing and trying to grab 2nd place isn't worth it, so maybe he has just backed off to try and have a look, to try and see how things are going.
And they will carry on the racetrack as they get closer now to 5 laps to go in this event. And for Gregor Husu, you've got to argue this is the comeback he's really needed in this championship, Jake. He had a good start to the season, winning, of course, at Spa, even though he had a tremendous amount of pressure placed on him by Hugo Ruiz. Then he had that incident down in the second round of the championship at Interlagos. Suzuka ran through the championship, marked the first time in his WCS career he wasn't able to get onto the podium in 2 races in a row. Got back onto the podium at Road America, and barring any major hiccups, looks as though he's going to go back to iRacing victory lane at the end of this event in 5 laps time.
Yeah, definitely Gregor, his season's gone from brilliant to downhill, and then it's gradually gone back up that hill that he dropped down. He definitely hasn't had the run of luck in late, especially last week's qualifying. He wasn't overly that quick. If I remember rightly, he was about 5th or 6th on the grid, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's definitely looked stronger this week. He didn't have the quickest of qualifying times, but obviously he's not been practicing for the qualifying because he's been practicing for this race. He has been outstanding. You could not fault one thing he has done. And he's definitely looking like he's on road for the second win of the season and to break the record breaking what we've had so far.
Yeah, so it looks as though that we won't get into 5 winners in 5 races as it stands right now, because Hutu has a 6.5 second lead over the number 26 car of Alexia UC Yakoda. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, if you are a new member to iRacing.com, head over to iRacing right now to get yourself half price off all new membership. Be it a 1 month, 3 month, 1 year or 2 membership, all of them are 50% off if you head over to iRacing.com right now, and you can join the world's most realistic racing simulation with over 45,000 members worldwide. Also head over to wcs.iracing.com for all the latest news, information about the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and the NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series as well. And of course, iRacing News bringing you all the bleeding edge news from all of the series that make up the iRacing.com service, as we now have just over 3 laps to go in this event. And just having a look at some of the battles that remain on this racetrack, Scott, really the only one that could potentially happen is Borgia and Benito. Apart from that, this cars in the lead lap are pretty much spread out, except for Lorente and Sturgios.
Yeah, of course, then right down the bottom of the top 20, of course, they're battling away for points positions right down there. But, I mean, Sturgios and Laurent, obviously, unfortunately against Sturgios, not exactly showing the pace that we may have expected from this weekend. He came in this weekend 4th in the championship, of course. He's currently running behind Marty Piatella, so Piatella will get the points advantage because Piatella's running in 10th. So I would expect that Piatella's going to move into P4 in the standings, whereas Sturgios will drop back into the bottom of the top 5, maybe even further if he's not careful. But yeah, it seems that everything's quite set. I have noticed that Alex Uciacola and the gap between him and Hugo Luis is down to about just under 1.8 seconds. And looking at the lap times last time around, I mean, Ucola's was a 1 minute 6.7. Hugo Luis is starting to wake up a little bit here, 1 minute 6.3, so he's closing a bit more. Now, we are on lap 67, 69, so there's about 2.5 laps to go here, so unless Hugo Luis really starts taking huge chunks of time out of Alex Uciacola in the remaining time that we have left in this race, it's probably going to be incredibly close between the pair of them, but unless Hugo Luis can really turn the wick up in his final couple of laps, I'm not sure he's got enough left in to try and get second place. But I think third will still be a podium. He'll still have a great chance and a spot in the standings, but I think possibly the top 3 could be settled. But then again, this is racing, this is iRacing, and we could be proven wrong, so we'll have to wait and see.
2 laps left to go in this event, and let's keep an eye out on the time between Yakola and Hugo Luis. Yakola comes past the start-finish line, and he's going to do himself a 1 minute 6.414. Hugo Luis is going to do himself a 1 minute 6.305. That battle, barring any fuel issues for Yakola, is not going to be an issue. But out front, Gregor Hutu, I think he wants his race to end now, Jake, because he's got a lot of lap traffic to get through in this next lap and a half.
Yeah, I think what he's been through so far in this race, he just wants to hang on to the end. And to be honest, if I was him, I would want that. I would want this race to end as well on lap 67 and not done these 2 laps, because that lap traffic in front of him, they seem to be dicing about as well. It seems to be the battle for, I think, top 20. I think with Jake Sturgios, Lorenzo Vergas, and Cesini up there, and they all seem to be battling it out for them positions. And Hutu may get involved in it, but them drivers, they all have great respect for him, so I reckon they will let him by and Hutu will secure this victory, unless he just backs off like I think he has at the moment. Yeah, he seems to have backed off.
A lot. He does back up a lot there by about a second.
I was going to say a 107.228. Yeah, he's taking it for the short. As we come on to the last lap of the race, though, Will, Hutu leads the way.
There is 2/3 of a lap to go, and I think Hutu doesn't want to have anything to do with these battles, because there is a battle going on ahead of them right now. And this is Paul Lilbing going to go around the outside of Fabio De Carmo, and will he make the job stick? I don't think he will. He'll have the inside line into the next corner, and this is why Hutu did not want to get involved in this, because they are battling still for position. Paul Lilbing makes a last lap pass out over Fabio De Carmo, and that is going to be critically important for him. Meanwhile, Gregor Hutu is coming up the hill for the final time. Just a handful of corners left for him to go as he comes through turn number 9 for the final time. He'll come down the hill for the final time. He does not want anything to do with those lap cars. It's not going to be an issue at all, because the record books will show as he comes out the final corner that the 3-time champion is back. Gregor Hutu comes out of turn number 12 of the 69 laps of racing and takes victory in the 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Alexei Yusiakola comes home in the 2nd position. At the end, it was 4.6 seconds back. Hugo Luis comes home in the 3rd position. Now just waiting for Martin Kroenke to come home in that 4th place for Farage Free ID Motorsports. He will do that, and then also Yorni Tamada will come home and he will round out your top 5. But ladies and gentlemen, the 3-time champion is back. Gregor Hutu is back to the top step of the podium here in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, and he has got that job done after qualifying in 4th place in this event, Scott.
Well, I originally called it on the pre-show, and no one else decided to take up on it as well. Of course, I did change my prediction to Yusiakola. Maybe that was a good omen for Gregor, because he certainly did come through. It wasn't the best start for me. He held 4th position, but again, it was like we had with the Glacier Racing cars. Once he'd started to get settled in and he had that race pace going, he started to really pump in those quick lap times. That's what it got him past Martin Kroenke, then Alexei Yusiakola, and then that key pass into turn 1, which got him the lead. And since there, he just wasn't headed. A perfect pit stop and a beautiful run to the flag. Gregor Hutu is the first man to take more than one race victory in the season. He takes his 2nd win of the season, and that's a crucial one, because effectively, as we said, he is back. He's back on form, and he'll want to try and carry this in the next few races to try and put himself towards a 4th iRacing WCS title. Brilliant drive, fully deserved, and the champ is certainly back on form once again. Well done, Gregor. Great drive.
So the cars are on their cool-down lap. It looks as though all of them have now come past the start-finish line. Indeed, of course, by iRacing regulations, they've got to bring their cars back onto pit roads, and that's what they are doing right now. And it's also the chance for some of these drivers to do a little bit of formation dancing as well. And with that, it's time to run through your race results from this, the 5th round even, of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. And after 1 hour 17 minutes of racing, it is Gregor Hutu who takes the finish of this race, top step of the podium to him by 4.6 seconds over Alexei Yusiakola. Hugo Luis comes home in the 3rd position, with Martin Kroenke in 4th, and Yorni Tamada rounding out your top 5. A total of 3 Free ID Motorsports drivers in that top 5. Oli Picardo rebounds after a spin to come home in 6th. Jeremy Boosloop, a great finish by him in 7th. Enzo Benito in 8th, Andre Borch in 9th, and then Martin Petila rounds out your top 10. Mo Garfido in 11th, with Yuhu Abe in 12th. Alex Simpson, Marcus Caton, and Kazuki Omishima rounds out your top 15. What a drive by Omishima, up 20 positions from starting dead last. Fulvio Barazzini in 16th, Michelle Schizzini in 17th, Jake Sturgis 18th, Christian Laurent in the 19th position, and then Dion Burgess rounds out your top 20. The last of the drivers to score on the lead lap. A total of 4 retirees: Ilka Hapana, Rocco Barone, Isaac Price, and Matthias Egger. And then 5th retiree actually is Stephen Michaels, who got beached down at turn number 5 towards the end of this event. We'll be right back in just a couple of moments' time for the RaceSpotTV post-race show from the 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series after these messages from your friends at iRacing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our post-race show from the 5th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, which took place here today at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Gregor Hutu was your race winner in a time of 1 hour 17 minutes after starting 4th place on the grid. He was able to get past Martin Klunke, past Alexei Usiakola and past Hugo Louise to get himself to the checkered flag. Hugo Louise started on pole position, however was only able to get himself 3rd place after all was said and done, being passed by Alexei Usiakola as Yakola took a longer first stint, which gave him the leapfrog position. Martin Klunke came home 4th, and then Jordi Tamala rounds out your top 5. Worthington along with Scott Woodwis and Jake Cameron as we round up our coverage of this, the 5th round of the championship. And Jake, overall, an interesting race, mainly because we saw Hutu get back to form.
Yeah, definitely a very, very interesting race for some drivers. Hutu back on form. He's back at the top step. That's where he wants to be. That's where he deserves to be. The pace he's shown in this race, he passed Hugo with ease. Made him look like he was standing still. He also passed Kroenke as well. Kroenke had no challenge for him after the first few laps, and also Alexei Usiakola. He didn't put up a fight and just let Gregor go. But this race, definitely an exciting one. It's going to shake the championship up a bit with Jake Sturgios. He's finished back down there in 18th position. He's sitting in 5th in the championship, though. After that one, I don't reckon he'll be that far up. Also, Isaac Price, he was in the top 10 in the championship, not finishing this one due to the contact there with Ayuho Abe. So definitely this race, as we said before, Will, it's going to be a championship shaker, same as Watkins Glen in 2 weeks. It's changed a lot of things.
We're going to have a quick chat with Hugo Louise, who came home 3rd in this event. Now, Hugo, once again, great pole position there. However, in race pace, it seemed to be that you had to put away early, but then you're just being clawed back by Gregor Hutu, who ended up passing you down into turn number 1.
Hi Will, hi everyone who's watching. Yeah, we need to find out why we struggle so much with heavy feel. Gregor's pace was like true alien. It would be impossible to hold him up, and yeah. So back in the pits, I could get some pace again, and the team noticed that I was a couple of tenths slower than everyone from other teams on turn 2. So I was trying to figure out what I could do to improve it, but when I started to do it, it wouldn't be enough to get Alexei back again. So yeah. It's still a good race for the championship. I'm still very happy with the results, even though we need to do a lot more work to see what's happening with our car and on heavy fuel, because it's we are struggling so much in these conditions.
Well, you were able to get yourself a 3rd place overall, which, I mean, overall, it was a tough race for you at some point, but you still another podium finish, which I'm guessing was the least you could ask for after this event.
Well, I couldn't understand your last part of the sentence.
That's alright, no one understands me. Or pays attention to me, as we obviously found out earlier. But you got yourself a podium overall, which I'm guessing is still consolation, which is still useful as we head back to America and to Watkins Glen in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm still feeling a bit comfortable with the lead because of Ollie's result today. But things are getting tough for the championship. It doesn't mean just because I'm getting some podiums, it doesn't mean that I can feel relaxed. Because if I don't get a win, things can get too much complicated in the half of the season. So I need a win here.
Well, hopefully you'll get a win in 2 weeks' time at Watkins Glen. Yes, that's where we're going in 2 weeks' time. Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. Hugo, thank you very much for talking to us. We have got to move along very quickly because we are short of time this afternoon. However, we're going to have a quick chat, first of all, with Ollie Picardo, who came home in the 6th position. Ollie, difficult qualifying, interesting race, then you had a spin down at turn 4.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed. It wasn't my day. I've never liked the Phillip Island. It's quite demanding. Well, not demanding track, but yeah, I failed qualifying and took that spin into the turn 4. It was so probably on my own hand, just brake too hard and let guys go. I think I lost 1 position at the end to there. I was lacking quite a lot of pace in the first stint. I don't know what happened to my computer. I had like 140 FPS, so it was a bit difficult to push. But yeah, a bit disappointing. I hope to get better result in Watkins. Congrats to Gregor, Alexi and Hugo.
And overall, you got yourself a P6, which I'm guessing is some consolation. Of course, you stayed out on the same strategy again as Yakola. Were you thinking that you could break into the top 5 had you have not had that spin? And what can you take away from here to put into Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time?
Well, I need to figure out what's problem with my PC, and yeah, without that spin, I think I could have had P5 at least. Maybe P4 from Martin, but the guys had pretty good pace, so yeah, hard to say. Without the spin, I would say still a P5. But to Watkins Glen, yeah, we're missing Alexi to there, so it's one element what we lose as a team, but it's a bit more difficult track. Hopefully it suits me better than the Phillip Island.
Well, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks' time. Ollie Picardo coming home in 6th place in this. We're going to have to run through our interviews, and we'll come back to Alexia Yakola in just a moment's time. But Jeremy Bootley, once again, you drove through the field. You came home P7 after qualifying in that number 19 Radical Steel Series machine in the 18th position. Take us through your race.
Well, kind of exciting. Really a hard race, tough race, especially at the beginning. I was quite heavy on fuel, so I had no idea about the others, but beyond that I had a pretty good pace, and I could keep up to the group with Steven, and I managed to put clean laps, get a good pit stop. Then I left pits right in front of the guys, so I just had to do clean laps, and in the end, coming home with a 7th position is really good, because I wasn't expecting that at the start, because I started quite far back, honestly, and that's really a good result compared to at least the last race.
You always seem to find a way through these grids, and I never understand how you can move up so many positions, but is it comforting to know that in race pace you have still got a good top 10 car week on week?
Well, yeah, I don't know whether or it's possible, but it's happening, and maybe it's also a bit of luck, avoiding crashes at the start. But I also prefer to race to be on race fuel instead of quali. So maybe also that's because I'm more comfortable doing this, and fortunately it pays, and hopefully I will be able to improve my quali pace as well, because it's not really where I want to be. So we'll see that in the next few weeks.
Well, Jeremy, well done, coming home 7th place in today, one of our biggest movers in the top 10. Quickly got time to talk, first of all, to Alexi Yakola, coming home P2 in this event. Now, Alexi, you qualified 2nd, you finished 2nd, just didn't have the speed for Gregor today.
Well, it was a pretty odd situation, because we knew that the car will have new physics and new build only at Wednesday or Tuesday, so had to start making new setups and all stuff. So well, after all, it's nice to see that we did not lost too much stuff, that momentum we had, and yeah, pretty interesting race.
Still get yourself a P2. Of course, you're not racing at Watkins Glen next week. However, your teammates still are. How how difficult do you think this championship's going to be now Hutu's back into form? Louise has still got good speed, and of course you've got yourself and Olli Picala right there in the mix.
Well, qualifying pace was good, and but after race, have to say that we had too much of fuel. We pace was pretty good with the fuel, but Greg was just flying. We had nothing to do with him, so maybe we need to think about the strategies more in the future. But yeah, it's gonna be sad to miss that Watkins Glen race, but let's see again at Virginia.
Well, we will talk to you in 4 weeks' time. In fact, I probably won't talk to you in 4 weeks' time, but we'll talk to you in 4 weeks' time, as we'll see you back in WCS action at VIR. And finally, we're going to have a quick chat with Mogar Philo from the Radicals Steel Series team. Now, Mogar, you qualified here today in the 13th position. You finished in the 11th position, but it's been a tough race. You had some very interesting battles with the likes of Yuhu Abe, and also battling with some guys in the top 10 at one point.
Hello, Will. Well, it was quite a good race, considering that we had an update on physics for the simulator during this week, and most of my practice time is on weekends, so my practice times were very few this week, and hopefully the team worked on the car together, and we found quite a good setup for the race. Had some interesting battles. I was expecting to be a bit ahead on qualify, but I couldn't do a complete race simulation before the race, so my race pace was quite a surprise for me. I can't complain about the result I've got, and the battles were quite fun. Let's see if next race I have a bit more of time to practice and be a bit more competitive. Anyway, some interesting points. I really need to score consistently points because I lost some points at the beginning of the season, and I think I'm still on track to be on top 10 till the end of the season. So let's see what happens. I have to thank my teammates that really worked hard this week and helped me a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Mogar Philo, coming home today in the 11th position at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Scott, final thoughts?
Well, it's been another great day of racing in the iRacing WCS. I think that Gregor Hutu's certainly showing some fantastic pace and proving that he still has what it takes and that he's back on form, so it's good to see that once again. Of course, it means that he can now start charging up back through the top 10 and obviously putting himself in a great position for his 4th championship. But again, next to UCI trying to make the longer strategy run. It did work for a while, but it seemed to be that ultimately he just didn't lack the pace, of course. But I think all these guys in general, they're still getting used to the brand new tyres, new suspension with new physics and everything. But yeah, great run from Gregor Hutu, well-deserved victory, and great runs also from Yokola and from Luis to get on the podium. So good job by all. Couple of unlucky drivers. I think the most unlucky was Rocco Barone, qualified in the top 10. Out on the lap 1, could have been so much more, and I wonder what kind of catalyst he could have been in the top 10. But yeah, apart from that, great run from Gregor and the top 3, and we roll on course to Watkins Glen.
Jake?
Well, another brilliant race in this series. It's 5 races we've been treated to incredible racing, I think, to be honest. I think everyone will agree with me on that as well. Unfortunately, no records broken this week, so that run comes to an end. But Gregor Hutu, what can we say? He's back on the top step, isn't he? He's found form again. He's found pace. Not really changed the championship, though. I'm looking at it now. He's still 24 points off Hugo, but Olli Picala moves up to 3rd. So it's definitely made a big difference, as we said earlier on, Will, that this week would. And yeah, that's all really. Let's hope for more racing at Watkins Glen and hope for more brilliant racing.
Indeed, and just a quick update. 4 lead changes today, and the fast lap was set by Gregor Hutu. It was a 106.047, which ironically was faster than the time he did in qualifying. So it shows sometimes, even though you might be out of pace a little bit in qualifying, come race time itself, you can be a lot better. And that ends our coverage of the 5th round of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here on iRacing Live and RaceSpotTV. The next time the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com, I'm going to start that again. The next time the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com rolls into town will be May the 6th as we enter the greatest month of racing in the world, the month of May. 100 laps around Pocono Raceway. That'll be live on PSR TV, MRN, and ESM, and of course on iRacing Live. The next time the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series will be on air will be in 2 weeks at Watkins Glen International. 56 laps of racing, and that will also be here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. To run through very quickly your top 5 in the championship: Hugo Louise, 192 points. Gregor Hutu, 168 points. He's back up into the top 2 of the championship. Oliver Picard falls down to 3rd of 161 points. Alexei Usiakola, 4th overall right now, 136. And Martin Conke rounds out your top 5. You've got a Brazilian, 3 Finnish drivers, and a Club DX driver who right now sit in the top 5 in the championship. In 2 weeks' time, we'll head over to Watkins Glen. It's always one of the drivers' favourite tracks, and we'll be with you every step of the way. We start with WCS Spotlight before bringing you full coverage of qualifying, pre-race build-up, the race itself, and of course our post-race show as well. For myself, Will Vinson, Scott Woodward, Jake Cameron, and Raphael Sank on cameras, this has been a RaceSpotTV presentation for iRacing Live for the 5th round of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Gregor Hutu is back to the top step of the podium. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.